the consensual view on many issues, I've been attacked again and again. And I am the most physically and verbally attacked public figure or politician of modern times. Yes, you will know of some of the incidents, milkshakes thrown in my face, placards bashed over my head, but let me promise you, you only know about a fraction of the number of times that I've been assaulted. It would seem from the last couple of years, from the way I've been treated, that the press would rather our members of Parliament had no assets and no wealth at all. They seem to fundamentally object to any MP that has outside income. Indeed, they view those that have continuing business interests with severe scepticism. Making money is not a crime. Let me be absolutely clear. After the furore and the media pile-on, well, not just the media, the other political parties too, let me be absolutely clear. I have done nothing wrong. I have not broken the law in any way at all. I have not misused public money. And you know, for the first 2 years of being an MP, my personal MP expenses are zero. I've thought about it hard, and I've decided today I will resign as a Member of Parliament for Clacton-on-Sea, thereby forcing a by-election, which should happen, I hope, in short order. No, I've decided that the people of Clacton should be the judges of my actions. This will be a people versus the establishment by-election. It's a chance to stick two fingers up to the entire establishment, to frankly tell them where to go. And that is why I will be putting my name forward to stand in this by-election. I will fight to win. I will fight to continue the political revolution that reform has started. And I would say this to you, the voters of Clacton: if I win, you win. Because if I lose, they win. And we will never, with the two old parties, get the type of fundamental change that we need to fix broken Britain.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Three minutes past 6. Shall we do this? Happy Saturday, one and all. Mark Dolan on Talk Breakfast. Your weekend starts here. What's happening? Are you still slumbering, snuggling under the duvet? In which case, hop out of bed, get the kettle on, because we've got work to do. Lovely to have your company, a very big 4 hours. And breaking this morning, Big Ange is back. The mojito-swilling vape lover, Angela Rayner, is expected to be Britain's next health secretary. You couldn't make it up. Still, it's good news for Big Ange. It will boost her income and maybe give her the chance of getting on the housing ladder, who knows? And expanding her property portfolio. Buy another couple of flats in Hove, why not? Big Ange is back. Meanwhile, the very tough on immigration Shabana Mahmood is going to leave the Home Office, we're told. Does this prove that Andy Burnham has no intention of stopping the boats? Meanwhile, the former Manchester mayor, who enters Downing Street on Monday, has said, when in doubt, blame Margaret Thatcher. But is he right to attack the Iron Lady? The woman who liberated the working class of this country with Right to Buy. The woman who transformed the economy from the sick man of Europe to 5% growth in the mid-80s. The woman who won a war single-handedly and defended sovereign British territory, and he's attacking her? Producer Dean is very worked up about this morning. Is Andy Burnham right to attack Margaret Thatcher? Is that acceptable? What does that tell us about the kind of premiership we're going to have under Burnham? And my question this morning is a simple one. I need your help with this because you have wisdom, you have knowledge, you have life experience, you have common sense. Will Andy Burnham be good for Britain? I don't know, Luke. I don't know. Je ne sais pas. Will Andy Burnham be good for Britain? You got to help me. I need your help. I don't know. I'm not sure Andy Burnham knows. All I do know is Big Ange is back, Health Secretary, as she chows down another mojito. Pass me that vape, son. She loves a vape. Seriously, I need your help this morning. Will Andy Burnham be good for Britain? You tell me. 0344 499 1000. Text the word talk in your message to 87222 or leave us a voice note. This is your country. It belongs to you. I will never let you forget that. So how do you feel about Andy Burnham running your country? Will he be a good Prime Minister? Will he be good for Britain? Delighted to say that Luke is our lead engineer today. Kira is taking your calls at 0344 499 1000. Directing our TV output, the formidable Nehar. So if you want to see the show as well as hear it, and if you want to take a view on my deeply controversial outfit today, which I'm going to tell you is not for everyone, what you're going to need to do is head over to YouTube and you write the word talk in the search box, click on that, then hit live and up we pop. And let's get our YouTube numbers up. If you tune in and if we get a certain number of people watching, Nehar gets a pay rise. Let me tell you, that's good because that will bring her up to minimum wage. Welcome to talk. Frog in my throat. No, but why don't you see Nehar's great work by heading over to YouTube, search talk, and you'll see Dolan's dispatch, in which I'll be dealing with Andy Burnham in no uncertain terms. Andy Burnham attacking the Iron Lady. What a nerve. A woman that transformed this country. And the big man is back, our executive producer, the genius behind Talk Breakfast. Why is the show so good? Why is it so successful? Why are our numbers through the roof? Nothing to do with me. It's all Dean Spencer. The boss is back. I would say the bitch is back, but you can't because of Ofcom. And thank God I didn't. Luckily, this isn't live. Will Andy Burnham be good for Britain? Give us a call right now. Kira is taking your calls 0344 499 1000. Get the kettle on. As the saying goes, let's talk. And we kick off with today's front pages. Happy Saturday, one and all. I hope you're having a great morning so far, whatever you're up to. You might be in denial of the fact that you've got to get up now and get the kids ready for, I don't know, tennis lessons or something, or perhaps you've got to take the dog for a walk. Maybe the cat is meowing at your bedroom door. But whatever you're up to, we've got your back for the next 4 hours. It could well be that you are at the tail end of a night shift on your 6th or 7th shift of the week just to make ends meet. And here's the problem with this rather broken country. The extra hours that you do, the overtime, the toil that you put yourself through, it doesn't even touch the sides. You pay your tax and it's absorbed into an enormous welfare state and a massive debt pile and vanity projects like net zero. So you're working hard and a large chunk of your pay packet is going towards these doomed projects. Social redistribution, net zero and debt, What a complete mess. And I'm not going to blame Labour for all of this. I will not do that. This has been decades in the making. And how dare Andy Burnham criticise Margaret Thatcher, because the great irony is that that is probably the last time that Britain was properly run. It was actually a golden era for the country. In the late 70s, we were the sick man of Europe, going to the International Monetary Fund with a begging bowl just to keep the lights on. The trade unions were on strike. The bodies were not being buried. There was litter everywhere. A 3-day week. Power cuts. It was miserable. I know! I was there. I know I don't look like I would have been there. But that's the very nice bit of Vaseline that Nehar has put on the lens to make me look younger. But I was born in 1974, so I got a flavour as a little boy of life in the early 70s. And in the 80s, I lived through an economic, political and societal revolution. So we had inflation of 25% in the mid-70s. Mrs T comes in, she gets inflation down, she gets unemployment down. By 87, our growth was 5%. We had 5% growth in 1987. So the economy was growing at an exponential rate. When I say 5%, folks, that is not American levels of growth. That is Chinese levels of growth. In the United Kingdom, Mrs Thatcher, the woman whose legacy Andy Burnham is now attacking, saying, when in doubt, blame Thatcher. Blame Thatcher for right to buy, which liberated the working class of this country. Blame Thatcher for getting inflation down, for using national income, using growth to pay down the debt. Blame Mrs Thatcher for protecting sovereign UK territory, like the Falkland Islands, a difficult war, a tough war in which we lost too many people, a war that she won. Britain's first female Prime Minister whose gender wasn't even a story. The story was her conviction, her talent, her courage. And he wants to denigrate that. By the way, how ironic that the ultra-woke Labour Party have elected yet again a middle-aged white man. You couldn't make it up. I counted it yesterday. I think the evil Tories have so far had 4 female leaders. 4. The first of which was elected in 1975 when I was 1, when it was very much a man's world. And even then, the evil Tories were actually very progressive. They chose Mrs Thatcher on merit. They've had 4 female leaders, 3 female prime ministers, and 2 leaders of colour in Rishi Sunak and Kemi Badenoch. And Labour, the ultra-woke Labour Party, have once again elected a middle-aged white man. Now, I don't care. I'm not interested in your skin colour, and I don't care what is between your legs. That's of no interest to me. I don't know, Mr Blobby can be Prime Minister if he creates national income, reduces the debt and stops the boats. I couldn't care less who's in charge. I'll take Scooby-Doo with a bit of help from Scrappy and Shaggy. I don't care who saves the country as long as someone does, and I don't care what their gender is or their skin colour. But I do find it ironic from a Labour Party that's obsessed with identity politics and is as woke as they come, that cannot bring themselves to elect a woman or a person of colour. But that's because these people are wild hypocrites and, in their own way, in my opinion, horribly bigoted. And yet they cast themselves as the good people, make it make sense. The Times newspaper, Burnham vows to revive Labour. New leader promises voters the return of the party they once knew. Is that the party that Tony Blair quite rightly abolished, which was the old Labour Party, which was attached to the failed ideology of socialism? Daily Express, new Labour leader ready to be PM despite not being elected to the role. You are right, Andy. This is Labour's last chance. Andy Burnham warned that Labour had one last chance as he was declared party leader. What a charlatan. I'm going to tell you something now that will surprise you, Dean Spencer, at 15 minutes past 6 in the morning on a Saturday, with the sun rising over the capital, with the heat wave over, thank goodness, because I don't do well in the heat. Particularly the hair becomes controversial when it's hot. My hair becomes a talking point, it becomes divisive, it becomes an issue. So we're back to cool conditions. But here's the great irony of Andy Burnham. This is a guy that talked about loyalty. He said, I've supported every Labour leader. Well, wait a minute, you're the guy that's just evicted the current Labour leader from number 10 Downing Street. And I'm going to shock you this morning and say that I feel a bit sorry for Keir Starmer. Don't get me wrong. He was a terrible Prime Minister that's made everything worse. But it's his mandate. And it was really his mandate to mess up, which he's done. But he was elected on 5 years. And that majority and those 5 years are in his gift. He earned them. He was the leader of the Labour Party and he achieved a landslide victory. Now, that was because he wasn't a Tory. That was the great selling point. And first past the post favoured him in July 2024. The mathematics were very kind to Keir Starmer. The popular vote was completely disastrous. About 9.5 million people voted for Keir Starmer in 24, which is 3 million fewer people that voted for Jeremy Corbyn in 2017. So the popular vote was through the floor. It was a loveless majority, but a majority nonetheless which belonged to Keir Starmer. And yes, he was doing a terrible job and I couldn't stand him. He was barely human. He was just a human manifestation of ChatGPT software gone horribly wrong. Our first AI Prime Minister. Oh, computer says no. But it was his majority. It was his party. It was his 5 years. And it's been taken away from him by this preening narcissist in Andy Burnham, who I'm not having. Not one bit. Because he used to be right-wing, then he's left-wing. He's been on more journeys than Phileas Fogg. So I didn't like Starmer, but he won that election. The mandate was his. The majority was his. And I think he can rightly feel quite aggrieved as he drinks a cup of tea this morning and ponders his, in inverted commas, legacy. King of North's mad for it, says the Daily Star. Andy's new order. Burnham dad dances to Manchester tune as he's crowned Labour leader. It was cringeworthy, wasn't it? Andy Burnham, by the way, gave his victory speech at the Trade Union Congress. If that doesn't tell you that he's in the pocket of the left wing of this country, then nothing will. And it was so embarrassing seeing him boogieing to his Britpop. What a sick joke. What a laughing stock we've become. Bring back Starmer, all is forgiven. Get him back. Let's get Starmer back in because he won the election. Let him do a terrible job for the next 2.5, 3 years, and then let's have a political revolution. Daily Telegraph. Burnham says, Neil Kinnock is my inspiration. This is the guy that failed to win an election and almost destroyed the Labour Party. Daily Mirror, showbiz exclusive. Spice up your wife. Mel C to marry model in secret Lake District ceremony this weekend. Mel C is Sporty Spice and she's going to get married. I met her once. I did a bit of filming with Anton Deck and she was part of it. A very good-looking woman. Beautiful eyes. I think she's the only member of the Spice Girls that can sing. Is that fair to say? So she's a great talent, quite down to earth. She's not up herself, is she? I quite like Mel C. Dean Spencer, you're a single man now, so I can ask you without fear or favour, Mel C, yes or no? He didn't just say yes. He said in a very creepy way, yeah. Poor Dean, it's been a while. He's got a lot less choosy. He went back on the market about 6 months ago, and he's like, I'm going to get it right this time, and I'm not going to rush this. But here we are in July. And Dino wants a bit of summer loving. And I've just suggested Sporty Spice. Yeah. Anyway, good luck to her. I liked her very much when I met her. I think she's a real talent. Spice up your wife. What I will say, though, Luke, is it's a mistake to marry a male model because he's going to spend more time in the bathroom than she is with his moisturiser and his eyeliner. You don't want a bloke like that. I would imagine he waxes his chest every morning. She's not got time for that. She wants a normal bloke with a beer belly. that enjoys a trip to the Wetherspoons. That is what a proper husband looks like, in my humble opinion. Daily Mail, Burnham to drag us back to the 1970s. And The Sun newspaper, the Burn supremacy. New PM seizes number 10 with no mandate. Well, we're going to get reaction from one of the finest broadcasters in the country next. This is Talk Breakfast, and a simple question this morning. Get your calls in. Will Andy Burnham be good for Britain? 0344 499 1000. See you in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail.
Some breaking news. 8 men have been charged with rape and child sex offences as part of a grooming gang operation in South Wales. They've been charged with more than 30 offences. According to the CPS, the charges relate to 8 victims who were children.
Well, let me start by giving comment on Alison Hernandez, the Police and Crime Commissioner for Devon and Cornwall. She's a stupid, idiotic sycophant.
Anne Widdecombe was murdered, the most high-profile murder in Britain for many, many decades. She was murdered because she supported the reform agenda.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Will Andy Burnham be good for Britain is today's question on Talk Breakfast. Anthony says, will he be good? He wants to take us back to the 1970s. I'm going to stockpile candles. Chris says, Mark, did I hear Andy Burnham correctly? He was talking about a ferry from Tilbury to Grays. That never went through. It's up the road. You can get a bus or a train. A few stops. What a plank. More wasted money for the taxpayer. Well, let's take a listen now, if we can, to the incoming Prime Minister. And this is about Britain in the 1980s.
I am clear Britain took a series of wrong turns in the 1980s. Political power was centralised and economic power was privatised. The country surrendered control of the essentials, housing, water, energy, transport, and left people exposed to higher costs. That in turn led to the concentration of more wealth and power in the hands of fewer people and fewer places.
Well, there you go. That was Andy Burnham, who enters Downing Street on Monday. Live in the studio, Steve N. Allen, comedian and broadcaster. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning. Always a pleasure to be here.
Will Andy Burnham be good for Britain?
I mean, it's not looking that way, is it? I was so hoping, because we didn't know which one we were going to get. You know the old joke about all the different people walking to a bar, all the different types of politicians, and it's all Andy Burnham. So you didn't know which one it's going to be. I have, in the past, compared him to the Kylie Minogue Did It Again video, where there are all the different Kylies. So you don't know whether you're going to get, like, Blairite Andy Burnham or some sort of far-left Andy Burnham. It's looking like we're getting that one. I was so hoping. The number of times we've sat around besmirching the good name of Keir Starmer, saying, well, be careful, you never know what you're going to get. So far, all of the noises haven't been that we're heading back to some sort of centre-left, sensible, these are policies that actually could be useful. They're all showboating, kind of, look how left I'm going to be. That's the vibe that we're getting, and that's terrifying.
Isn't it amazing how many Labour leaders have not taken note of the success of Tony Blair, who won 3 landslide victories and was the most successful Labour leader in the history of the party?
Yeah. Why would you not want to model success and copy the things? Because the problem is, that way, it's pragmatism, isn't it? It's settling. It's what's the most reasonable thing we can do in the actual world. And that's not the way to win the argument, but not the election. Some people have this mentality of trying to say, look, I'm so devoted to the cause, I will become the extreme of my own self. I'll become obsessed with the furthest, most radical ideas. And that's just not going to play out in the real world. People forget, when you have an election, not that he did, the numbers are there that show you it's not like everyone's on board. It doesn't matter who wins, the left or the right. The numbers tell you you're also bringing with you half the nation that disagrees with you. So what you could do is have something that tries to appeal to both groups, and you could be successful, which is kind of what Tony Blair did. The little asterisk you need, the caveat is we all need to talk about Iraq, right? But if you forget that for a while, some of the things he did were really good, some of the things he did weren't. But that's what balance would be. I was never in favour of the way that tuition fees were done. But, you know, you got to stomach it because there were some things that did go well. So, yeah, if they'd have copied Tony Blair, but he's now hated by the own party. Literally, the Tony Blair Institute is spending all of its time doing press releases saying, come on, Andy, don't do it. Just step up, put down the leftism, and they're not listening.
No, it's unfortunate. And I just wonder whether he may have a point that we've privatised utilities and it's not played out particularly well, especially in regard to water and other infrastructure. You can talk about growing inequality, perhaps, about the fact that power has become very centralised. No problem, but if he reverses these things, it's going to take years to feed through to the lives of ordinary people, isn't it?
Yeah, and he forgets he's got 2 years. It's not like he won an election and has, like, a full term. It's 2 years. Do something to impress us. Do something that we can feel. Okay, and at the moment, we're getting the threats of movement in the other direction. Well, Andy Burnham, one of the front pages of the Telegraph or something a few weeks ago, had the phrase, he says, there's movement on tax. And I saw that headline, I thought, oh, thank heavens, he gets it. He sees what it's going to be. Let's have a read at what it is. Movement up. Darn it! How is he thinking at a time when pre-election, highest tax burden since World War II, then we have an election and then tax somehow goes up, and he comes in saying, don't worry, I'll find more ways to tax you. We're not worried about it. We don't want that. It's the opposite. Like, you know, people are suffering and struggling, and that's not going to be the way to keep people happy. So there's another, you know, it's only 2 years until the next election. You know, try and cheer us up now.
Well, that's right. And for any Labour Prime Minister, growth is everything, because that's how you can fund a progressive agenda.
Yeah.
If there's one thing we know about Labour governments, it's that they need money. That is their raison d'etre, to invest in public services, to tackle inequality. And I'm not hearing any mood music that will equate to growth from Andy Burnham. I'm hearing about a lot of constitutional reform, about moving power into the regions.
Yeah.
I'm hearing about nationalisation, which will be expensive, and it's no guarantee that it will actually improve our infrastructure. I'm not hearing too much about business, about jobs, about inflation, or about growth.
Yeah, it's almost like if he says anything that is pro-business, he will be hated by his own backbenchers. And that's the worry. One of the things I was wrong about, and Mark, you know that's not often, we can put it on the calendar.
You're always right. You have a monopoly of wisdom, Steve N. Allen.
That's what I put on the business
You're the
cards.
sage of talk.
They can't stop you if you put it on your business cards. But I was definitely wrong.
You're like a slightly taller, slightly more attractive Yoda.
Wait, yeah, thank you. Yeah. There is no try, only do, is what I keep saying to myself. That's my motivation.
You're like Yoda after a couple of weeks in Harley Street.
Yes.
With bum lift. And...
Yeah, I've had a bit of work done. Yeah, but I mean, he was a benefits claimant as well. That Yoda walking with the stick.
Horrible lefty.
And then all of a
Never
sudden,
liked him.
when it all kicks off, his lightsaber's going. What do you need in the stick for?
Yoda, no, massive Corbynite.
Yeah. Exactly.
Pro-Palestine. I mean, I'm done. I'm out of here with that guy.
But the thing that
He'll
I definitely
be the
got
next
wrong.
Labour leader, by the way, Yoda.
I mean, we all get a go at some point.
Prime Minister, I will become. There you go. I didn't realise he was Nigerian.
No, beautiful work. I was wrong because I thought, everyone's saying, look, it's a coronation, there's no contest. And I thought, avoid the contest. It'll be the worst thing. Because if anyone else stood against Andy Burnham, they'd all have to say things and promise things to win over the backbenchers, to win over the left of the party. And again, I don't hate the centre-left. I think the extreme parts of the left are the problem and the things to be avoided. I think the same's true on the right. Of
course.
I think that's the same is true in everything, right? But if there was going to be a contest, they'd have to make stands to win over the left. They'd make promises that I wouldn't want them to deliver on. The contest would have moved all candidates away from the centre. And I thought, thank heavens we've not done that. And yet Burnham's come in, and now he's acting like he had to do that already. He's appeasing those backbenchers. They know they don't have the gig next time. It's a one-shot, one-term thing. And maybe they want to leave a mark or something, but they're just forcing this government. And it's early to be this critical, but it feels like they're forcing Andy Burnham to not live in reality, to live in the dinner parties they'll have afterwards where they can say, well, actually, I try to enact this policy. Yeah, you'll win points in your dinner circles, but not in the real world.
Is he just pretending to be left-wing to keep the troops happy, and in office he'll do the right thing and therefore make you happy?
Nothing makes me happy, Mark, you know that.
It's a very good point.
I don't know. Look, I've never met him.
From Japanese
I'd love to know where the end of that...
adult movies.
Oh, you went there. I was thinking, how is he going to avoid...
Well, I made the mistake of borrowing your laptop a couple of months ago, and what I saw aged me.
It's all pixelated. However, yeah, what are we talking about? No, I don't really know.
Is there not a chance that he'll essentially that this is, you know, a little bit of theatre? You know, son, me old lad, I'm going to be left-wing. And then actually he makes the tough decisions and is a good Prime Minister.
I don't think I think he seems too willing to change, too capricious, I suppose. There have been so many different versions of him. I'm not sure if there is a core. And I've never met him to know. I've not met, I only met Keir Starmer once, bumped into him in Edinburgh. So it's not like I really had a sense of the person. But I've got no data that lets me know whether he is simply following what he thinks is the strongest current to get him to where he wants to be. I think that might be the kind of politician we're dealing with. Maybe he's really successfully hidden the sense of an inner core that is politically motivated to an ideal. I just think he changes with the wind.
Huey raises a great point. Good morning, gentlemen. The reason the water systems are so useless is because, once again, they were built for a population of around 50 million people and can't cope with the population explosion. Furthermore, the green policies and net zero policies have prevented any new reservoirs being created in over 30 years. Well, I remember the Lib Dem MP Layla Moran celebrating the fact that she'd blocked a reservoir in her constituency. But of course, in the summer, when there's no water, people like Layla Moran are saying we need more reservoirs. I do think, regarding this nationalisation project, there's no guarantee that it will improve the performance of those businesses.
Yeah.
For example, it's little reported that before water privatisation, pipes were broken, millions of litres of water were wasted, and we had pollution in the rivers. Who knew?
No, well, that's true, but I do think there are some things that should have been privatised and some things that shouldn't. Everyone wants us to just fit it into privatisation good,
agree with that.
Privatisation bad. There is no do, only try, right? But phone systems, what a ridiculous thing we had when it was just with one company who were in charge of the phones. You wanted a second line putting in. I think it was a while ago. Both of us might struggle to remember. But wasn't it something like you had a 3-month wait for a phone to be installed?
Yes, absolutely.
We never would have kept up with modern telephony. Like, you needed to privatise to get to the stage where you've got 5G, 6G systems. So, of course, you needed that one done because you could have close to a perfect competition, a competitive market. Electricity, I guess you can change your supplier. You don't really know where the electrons come from, so not that the electrons actually... They simply carry the Maxwell field. They only drift, so you don't get the electrons from the supplier. I think we all know that. But water...
It's the usual kind of down-the-pub chat, isn't it?
Yeah, Maxwell's equations.
Can I tell you that this electron chat that you've just been indulging in, that is what won the heart of Mrs. Dolan on our first date.
She likes a bit of slow drift, does she?
She plugged me in that night.
I hope you've pixelated the video when you sent it to Japan. But the idea of water, you don't get a choice. It's a full-on monopoly. They've got you. Because I tell you what happens as a human, you get thirsty. It's all very well thinking, you know, I'll prove them wrong. At some point, you're going to need their water, and they can fully rip you off, charge you way too many, pay the dividends,
sure.
and then have it. So that is a system that I can understand. A nation can be.
It's wrong in principle, but to nationalise is expensive and not a magic wand.
Yes.
And I think what will happen is we'll do it and it'll be the right thing to do, but will it change lives? I doubt it.
No, it will simply stop the rot. So maybe at some point we could start to fix the pipes. We won't feel the benefit for a long while, and the benefit will simply be a slightly later hosepipe ban. But that situation is wrong. That shouldn't have happened, whereas loads of other privatisations should. It's not difficult to hold those two things in your...
Well, you've got skin in the game because of that enormous fountain in your garden, of course.
Oh, yeah, I do like... I got a hosepipe, yep. Every so often, I just like to nip into the back garden and recreate the intro to Friends. Is that wrong, Mark?
It's not bad, and I hear you've diverted the River Ox just to get enough water supply through your rear garden, and that essentially you're chewing through more water than the whole city of Las Vegas, but good luck to you.
I look hydrated, though. So.
Of course you do. Before the break, a quick one. Are you inclined to feel sorry for Keir Starmer this morning as he contemplates his legacy and packs his bags?
No, because he was the one who made the mistakes. He, if anything, I think could have been closer to that centre and could have done the practical, pragmatic thing. But here's what I think his big problem was. It was arrogance. It was, well, I'm the Mac Daddy. I've just won this massive majority. Look at the size of my majority. Oof. But therefore...
Back to the Japanese adult movies, aren't we?
I've never seen one. I don't know why you keep talking
There's one
about
called Mr. Hirohito, and it's very, very good. Basically, the sauna isn't working, which is a big issue in Tokyo.
Privatisation.
Yeah, and there's a large number of ladies in the sauna waiting for it to heat up. Anyway, he gets his spanner out. But go on.
No, I do like the idea of people who can repair things.
It's a compelling storyline.
It's like repair.
I stayed right for the end.
But... yeah, the arrogance of like, oh, we're so right. We don't even need to convince the nation. That was the problem. We're right. You, the nation, is wrong. No, you work for us. They should have worked better on comms to try and even the things that weren't popular. Explain to us why they're not popular.
But wait a minute. This is democracy, isn't it? Wasn't it Keir Starmer's to mess up? And isn't it his right to be terrible for 5 years and do a bad job? Is that not what democracy looks like? And you either prevail or fail based upon your efforts. Why wasn't he given that crack of the whip?
No, he was, wasn't he? He was given the crack.
No, he wasn't, because he was given 2 years.
Yeah, because that's how successfully he managed to fail.
But that's not how a democracy works. We choose a party and a party leader, and they get 5 years, and it's good, bad, or indifferent. And I wouldn't mind going... Was it old-fashioned of me to go back to that, where you choose someone and they get 5 years?
Well, I mean, you know the drill.
You know, we can but dream, can't we?
We live in this two-state world of saying, like, it's not a presidential system, but by word, it's a presidential system. But whenever you need it to not be, it's not. My theory, by the way, I can solve that for you. You have a law that means as soon as you swap Prime Minister, you have to have a general election, which means no party would swap Prime Ministers.
Mr. Hirohito is heavily dubbed and available on Netflix. It's not one for the kids. Do check it out. I'm delighted to say that live in the studio is the movie expert, the brilliant Steve N. Allen. And, oh boy, have we got a big story for you next. Big Ange is back. 6:38, Talk Breakfast.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Andy Burnham wants to go back to the 1970s. Great, says Stu in the Cotswolds. So there will only be a handful of migrants in each town and city. Mass deportations, perchance. Stu, thank you for that. What about John in North Yorkshire? Good morning, Mark, and hello, Steve. It seems like I'll have to dig out my old Ford Cortina and my disco gear. I don't think my weary old bones can deal with all the dancing. I don't know about the locomotion. I think it will be do the rigor mortis. John, a beautiful message. Thank you for that. Keep them coming. Will Andy Burnham be good for Britain? 0344 499 1000. Give us a call. We'll put you on air before 7 a.m. Live in the studio, Steve N. Allen, comedian and broadcaster. Steve, let's take another listen to the Prime Minister, this time on taking the party back to its roots.
As your leader, I will set a direction that is distinctively Labour. We won't try to out-green the Greens or out-reform reform or doing what we've done in the past of wearing too many Tory clothes. Let me tell you, I'm quite happy that Kemi doesn't approve of my wardrobe choices because I'm not keen on theirs either. From here, we do it differently.
Well, there you go. No policy, just vibes. Steve, as a professional performer yourself, what did you make of his delivery, Andy Burnham's, in that speech?
Do you know what? I'm not going to criticise the delivery. It's a refreshing change, because what we've had is Keir Starmer, who's had no sense of being a human until he resigned. And then since then, he's come out of his shell a bit. That was quite nice. A few little jokes. Oh, he's human after all. There was must be something about, I think all of his brain runtime was spent on not losing the job. Yeah. That when he eventually went, well, I'm out of here, he just kind of cheered up. If he'd have done that all along, maybe we would have liked him more. So the delivery's better. The delivery's actually quite good. I just don't like, when you say vibes, I don't like the vibes of, we don't need to cast capitalism as the problem because we live in a capitalist society. I want a Prime Minister who's good at capitalism. And I don't mean rampant, free market, absolutely no restrictions, but someone who understands the world in which you live, the world that you're the Prime Minister in, is a capitalist country with some socialism mixed in. And again, everyone wants to break it down. Socialism bad or capitalism bad. Well, we've got we're trying to get the mixture right. Pensions, helping war veterans is technically socialism. Everyone wants a bit of socialism mixed in, of course you do. But you don't want a situation where you don't have any capitalism, otherwise you don't have an economy to fund all of the things. So I didn't like the vibes. The performance was good, but it feels like it's signalling like, oh, don't worry, I don't like capitalism either. Well, then you're in the wrong job.
Is it not a challenge also to repudiate the 1980s, given the fact that that was a decade of social mobility and economic growth?
Yeah, it's a mixture, isn't it? I think he's right about some of the privatisations. I think if you cast the 80s as all wrong, you miss so much of the economic recovery from the 70s to the 80s. The fact that by the end of the 80s, the go-to reference of that era was kind of like yuppies on their phones. Right. Someone had made some money. The amount of money that was being spent on some drugs back in the day, you know what I mean? So someone was doing all right. I think it did lead to regional economic differences. So I grew up in the Midlands, in Mansfield, so like a former mining town. So I got that vibe of we felt we'd been hard done by. And I suppose it is true, Germany managed to close its mines without impacting communities as much as what happened here. Whether that's all Thatcher's fault or a mixture of how hardline the unions were trying to be and how hardline Thatcher was trying to be. So look, I think there's an argument there. And it feels like, or it felt to us, the right to buy eventually helped people in the South East way more. Like, if you bought a council house back then, you're minted. You bought a council house in some areas of the North East, well done, you've got a shed. Do you know what I mean? So maybe he's trying to...
But it was still yours, which was, therefore, a different mentality, wasn't it? And yeah. Mrs Thatcher eradicated the class system, really, and the idea of being working class disappeared over that decade. Well, people didn't know their place anymore, and part of that, the psychology was owning the roof over your own head, changed your relationship with the economy.
Well, I've always thought one of the cleverest things she did was that, because if you own a house, all of a sudden, It's oversimplified to say you become more right-wing, but you get a bit more practical. You own it. You've got a stake in the land. Then all of a sudden, you become less wishy-washy in the... Or maybe you just get older in your teenage views of kind of like, oh, maybe we should just help the world and we should be peace everywhere. Yeah, that's the view you have as a student.
Well, you have a stake in the economy. You do have skin in the game.
Yeah, and that makes you... Again, practical. Pragmatism. It's my thing. That's what I think is the success of a nation. But I think that the difference, even if you just look at it on the house prices, I can understand why some people in the north feel that the south has had a better time of it just by how wealthy people are technically on paper.
Yeah, and I think that's a fair point. Let's take a voice note if we can. And this is Eugenie in Bexhill.
Good morning, Mark. Super show, as always. Eugenie from Bexhill-on-Sea. Andy Burnham, we deserve better. The nation deserves better. He is a fake, he's incompetent, and he'll just change his mind with the wind. And he hasn't got a grasp of what the nation wants and what we're feeling. So, no, in answer to your question, he won't be good for anything, and he won't be good at anything. It's a shame. As I say, the nation deserves better.
Eugenie, thank you for that. A rather depressing but very well articulated voice note. You're a star. Do join us again soon, Eugenie, if you can. We love the voice notes. What do you think? Will Andy Burnham be good for Britain? Good morning, Mr. Dolan, says Nick in London. What do you call a country where some deluded, power-crazed bloke seizes power? It is a flipping dictatorship. How do you get rid of a dictator? Discuss. And I do think that's an issue for Labour, that Andy Burnham has been parachuted in without a mandate. History would suggest, Steve, that the public will have their say at the next election. They don't like having prime ministers foisted upon them. We saw that with the Tories.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, honestly, I do think the solution would be to admit that we are a bit more presidential. There must be a massive difference between having one prime minister and the next. So the argument is, you don't need a general election. You vote for your local representative, you vote for the party. Well, if there were no difference between having one PM and the next, why would they bother changing who the prime minister is? Think about the massive step change between having Theresa May, Boris Johnson, Liz Truss, Rishi Sunak, all such different regimes.
Yes.
So I think that proves that a different prime minister means a very different government. So you should go to the people and ask. I do think the knock-on effect would be if a party knows it will have to face a general election by swapping prime minister, it wouldn't swap prime ministers. But at least this problem goes away a little bit there. And sure, you might end up with some really dodgy crackpot prime minister, but you just excuse that with a little bit of voter beware. We voted for it in the first place. You have to, take your punishment.
Now, I've got some good news for you. It's not that I've purchased a Blu-ray copy of Mr. Hirohito.
Very blue.
Without the subtitles.
Oh.
Angela Rayner.
You speak Japanese?
A little bit.
You've learned the basics.
Well, I've worn out that VHS, I'm not going to lie. Big Ange is back.
Oh, yeah.
Angela Rayner is being lined up as the Health Secretary, the mojito-loving, vape-chomping former Deputy Prime Minister is being lined up as Andy Burnham's Health Secretary to push through radical social care reforms. Well, it will be the mother of all comebacks, won't it?
Yeah. I mean, look, I don't necessarily love people who vape or whatever. We can't have a go at her for that. We remember Therese Coffey, who managed to drink more than absolutely everyone.
Wake up and smell the coffee was the campaign slogan.
Yeah, I mean, she was, living the high life there.
Could be misconstrued. It's family show behaviour.
You could... Oh, dear
We've
me.
all had a drink.
That's a mental image I didn't need. Yes, look, I just think this is a bad idea. Because... Well, it was the only reason... I think Wes Streeting was actually making a bit of movement in the right direction. I didn't like the way he negotiated at the end of the strikes, but it seems some of the basic ways he was operating was, let's look at a hospital that's doing something right, try and model it, see if we can replicate that across the system. It's a small step, but he was doing the right thing.
I think he and Shabana Mahmood are the more talented of the cabinet members, aren't they? And what's good about him is he's not worried about sacred cows.
Yeah.
And he's been willing to criticise the NHS, the culture of it, how it's run, and he's tried to do the right thing. And he's going to be off-ski. I mean, I'm not sure what Wes Streeting's going to get, but I think it may be a demotion from the health department.
Yeah, such a shame, because now is the time to try and be changing things. The way it's all been written about in the newspapers, radical change to the care system, right? Great, I agree with those words, but do we know the direction? In the same way that we talked about Andy Burnham saying there's movement on tax, great, but do we know the direction? Because if we're going to radically change the NHS, make it more efficient, change the way some of the sections do things, that's exactly what we need. I just think where we are right now, with Ange in charge, the motion of travel is going to be in the wrong direction. It's going to be, let's see if we can spend a couple more billion on this. And that's not what we need. We don't need to be spending more. We need to be spending it efficiently, because that saves people's lives.
Coming up, Nigel Farage reacts to Andy Burnham's first speech. But first, here is Rob on a voice note.
Morning, Mark. Rob, on my way to work. Listening to you talking about Burnham, he wants to take the country back to the 70s. Does that mean we're going to have 3-day weeks, piles of bodies, 15% interest, going to the IMF to bail us out because we're going bust, unions running the job, power outages, all the good things that Labour brought us. Cheers.
I believe in all of you, and I am confident we can do it. Thank you very much.
Pass me the sick bag. Nauseating, indulgent, rambling nonsense. Bring back Starmer. As far as I'm concerned, 3 times he said, I'm ready. Therefore, protesting too much. I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready. I have a plan. I suspect that in the next couple of months, we're going to discover the opposite is the case.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Nigel Farage has reacted to Andy Burnham's first speech as leader of the Labour Party, and this was a speech made at the CPAC Conservative Conference yesterday. Take a listen.
But I'm doing this not because I want rank, title or position. I'm doing this because I fear this great country that we love. I can see this country. We are going down the drain. Britain is broken. We have to wake up to that fact, acknowledge the extent of the illness. And until we do that, we'll never be able to put the right cures in place. I'm doing this because I believe in Britain. I'm doing this because I believe we can turn this around and get this country back on the right track.
Will Andy Burnham be good for Britain? Barry is in Norwich. Barry, good morning.
Good morning, Mark. How are you?
I'm very well. Happy Saturday. How are things with you, man?
Oh, not too bad. I'm just watching this Andy Burnham, yeah, and I don't like what I see, to be honest with you. I don't like a person who wasn't even an MP And 2 weeks, I mean, suddenly being parachuted into a safe seat, then being made the Labour leader, and then being made Prime Minister without any, the public having any say. And I think they must have a general election. You cannot, the people of this country cannot have that behaviour from the government. Yeah, it's dictatorial, if you like. Yeah, you know, something that would happen. It's like something that would happen in China or Moscow or North Korea or, you know.
I know, especially without even a leadership election, just a coronation, Barry. That said, can I ask you? Let's imagine Reform win the next general election, and 2 years in, Nigel Farage decides to hand over to Zia Youssef. Would you want an election then as well?
Yeah, yeah, I do. Yeah, I'm a firm believer, right, that if a party changes Prime Minister in any particular when they're in power, they must have a general election. They must be given a mandate from the people. He has got no mandate, Andy Burnham. He reckons he's going to stay to the broken stuff that Starmer was already wedded to. Yeah, right. He's not going to stop the illegal immigration. He's not going to sort out the benefits bill. He's not going to do anything that is going to possibly even start to put this country on the right footing. Yeah, and you know, like you said, I would love to go back to the 80s. I'll be at school for one, but you know, it was, you know, we need a leader in this country. I don't want someone like Starmer who wants to be friends with anyone. I want a leader. Yeah, who's going to put this country first, the British citizens.
Which is what we had with Mrs. Thatcher, who was quite happy to be unpopular, Barry.
And yeah, and that in my world, that is the last time this country had a leader. Yeah, I guarantee you that if that lady was in power today, then boats would not be coming across the channel.
No chance.
The benefits bill would be more, manageable. Yeah, and this country would be on we'd have a strong navy, a strong police force, and strong borders. Yeah, this country is just going down the toilet, and no one's prepared to, you know, rescue it. And it's just really sad to watch what's going on. Yeah.
Well, it's very interesting. What do you make of what Barry has had to say, Stephen Allen?
I think he talks a lot of sense, because some of it agreed with me. No, I think we do have to address the fact that, yeah, we should go and ask the public, because if you're going to change Prime Minister or manifesto, a government should have to go back and ask again. I'm glad he says he's not doing the partisan thing of saying it's because the left are doing it right now, I want it, I wouldn't want it under Reform. That's the reason we are stuck in this situation. It's because everyone who was tweeting when Rishi Sunak managed to get the job without asking the public. Yeah. I mean, even Liz Truss, everyone says that she had the vote of the Conservative members. That's not a representative sample.
It is not. 60,000 people.
Of the most conservative Conservatives. Well, that's not how you should do it. You shouldn't do the Rishi Sunak way. So there should have been a general election then. There should have been one with Rishi, and there should be one now. And I'm willing to see it from all sides, because we all would benefit of going back and asking the nation. And as I say, it means there'd be fewer swaps. But I think it just would be a better system.
Barry, just briefly, if you can, do we need to give Andy Burnham the benefit of the doubt? Should we give him a fair crack of the whip, Barry?
After a general election, yeah.
Well put. Barry, top man, what a brilliant call. Have an excellent Saturday. We will speak soon. We always love having Bazza on the show. Here's a voice note from Peter.
Then Mark, Andy Vermin. Well, that speech, ho, 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 look at us, we're better than the Tories. That's the usual rubbish they come out with to try and get their followers all fired up, don't they? But at the end of it all, Labour, it's always somebody else's fault with Labour, always has been, always will be. But then again, how can people keep blaming other people for their own mistakes? Andy Burnham, Andy Vermin, whatever you're going to be called in the future, which is probably going to be worse than that, you won't last 10 minutes because people will see through you straight away. It was bad enough under Keir Starling, but under Andy Vermin, it's going to be 10 times worse. Anyway, have a nice day and don't grow that beard too long.
Well, Peter, what a powerful voice note. Can I say that you are a master of language and your vocabulary is exemplary? That was fantastic. Well, there you go. We've approximated a nickname for Andy Burnham. What do you think, though? Will he be a good Prime Minister? We'll be hearing from a man that knows him well next, Simon Danchuk.
I've got some breaking news here. The Crowborough Army Training Camp could hold male asylum seekers all the way until 2030.
Good.
After the Home Office claimed it would only be for 12 months. Not much ambition involved in that, is there, in terms of solving the migrant crisis?
Absolutely, and the way that the Labour government gaslit the public when the migrants were first moved in there, saying, you know, you guys are absolutely being mad. Crowborough is a quiet, leafy town in East Sussex. These people, you can see, have been pushed to their absolute limit. They're not the types that you usually see protesting about this sort of thing. But that town has been absolutely desecrated.
You're ruining the country. Get Keir Starmer out. Look, England flags. You're useless. Labour parties are useless.
I love our country. And one of the things about our country is good manners. Not very British.
What Labour advisor thought she wasn't going to be heckled at a petrol station in Leeds? Do these politicians actually ever get out and understand what it's like for real working class people? I thought it was British to exercise a right to free speech. That's what Keith Stalin told Trump. That's what White Van Man was exercising yesterday to Richard III. Oh yes, I remember. We're not really allowed our right to free speech in case we criticise the government.
You can't blame people so many decades away from you for the chaos that has been caused by Labour.
This is cheap politics, isn't it, Sir Ian?
Well, it's stupid politics. I mean, who raised national insurance on part-time workers? Labour. Who's been the stupid people that have wandered down the road and increased taxes on businesses and on individuals? Labour.
A lot of people get very frustrated, especially when the government says, oh, free school meals, you know, for every kid, not just the kids who really need them, free bus passes, free this, free that. None of it's free. It's subsidised and paid for by the taxpayer. And we're in this constant situation where the government's answer to everything is tax us a bit more, take more of our money, and then give some more of it away generously. It's our sodding money they're giving away.
Yeah, exactly. And it's either someone else's money today, another taxpayer, or even worse, it's the money from our future selves. And we keep making this...
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
.703, top of the morning, Talk Breakfast. Happy Saturday, one and all. Mark Dolan with you for a very big show. And breaking this morning, Big Ange is back. The mojito swilling vape lover, Angela Rayner, is expected to be Britain's next health secretary. You couldn't make it up. Well, this will boost her income and maybe give her a chance to get on the housing ladder and boost her portfolio. Maybe she could buy another flat in Hove. Meanwhile, tough on immigration Shabana Mahmood is to be removed from the Home Office, we're told. So does this prove that Andy Burnham has no intention of stopping the boats? What's going to happen to illegal immigration under Andy Burnham? Meanwhile, the former Greater Manchester Mayor, who enters Downing Street on Monday, has said, when in doubt, blame Margaret Thatcher. But is he right to attack the Iron Lady? That's the topic of today's Dolan's Dispatch at 9 a.m. And my question to you this morning is a very simple one. Will Andy Burnham be good for Britain? Do we need to give him a chance? Could he prove his doubters wrong? We need him to succeed, but will he? I don't know, so I need your help. 0344 499 1000. He's your new Prime Minister. Are you excited? Are you happy? Now, Kira's taking your calls this morning, 0344 499 1000. Book your place on the show. Will Andy Burnham be good for Britain? Is he right to attack Margaret Thatcher? Or was the Iron Lady the last time we had truly high-quality leadership in this country? Text the word TALK in your message to 87222 or leave us a voice note and let's talk. Dean Spencer is our executive producer. The brilliant Luke is pressing the buttons. Kira's taking your calls and directing our TV output is Nahar. If you'd like to watch the show, see my amazing guests and watch Dolan's Dispatch at 9 a.m, head to YouTube, search Talk, hit the live button and up we pop. And you can share your views on my rather controversial outfit this morning and my efforts at growing a beard. Yes or no to the beard, what say you? Unfortunately, I think I look like Shaggy from Scooby-Doo at the moment. Yikes! Will Andy Burnham be good for Britain? 0344 499 1000. As the saying goes, let's talk. I hope you're having an excellent Saturday morning so far, whatever you're up to. Perhaps you're still tucked up in bed, in which case get the kettle on because we've got work to do. You may be at the tail end of a night shift, in which case I salute your contribution to the unstoppable powerhouse that is the great British economy. The front pages are in Daily Mail. Burnham to drag us back to the 1970s. The Sun newspaper, the Burn supremacy. New PM seizes number 10 with no mandate. Daily Telegraph, Burnham, Kinnock is my inspiration. And Daily Star, King of North's mad for it. Andy's new order. And last but not least, Daily Express. You are right, Andy. This is Labour's last chance. Well, let's get reaction to all of the big stories of the day, including the arrival of a brand new Prime Minister in Downing Street on Monday in the company of Steve N. Allen, comedian and broadcaster, and former Labour MP, and now broadcaster and entrepreneur Simon Danczuk. Gentlemen, welcome to Talk Breakfast. Simon, the Labour Party, a party that you once served for many years, has a new leader. Your reaction?
Well, the coronation of Andy Burnham really stretches Britain's definition of democracy, doesn't it? I mean, he wasn't even an MP in the general election of 2024. We've never seen anything quite like this before. And so I'm really concerned about the situation, to be quite honest. I think I actually think he's manufactured a by-election in Makerfield and in Greater Manchester to make a comeback, and it causes me great concern, and it should cause your listeners concern as well.
Well, that's a fascinating response, isn't it? Is there a chance, do you think, Simon, that he could prove people wrong and do a good job?
I think it's unlikely. I've known Andy Burnham 20 years, and there's a reason that he didn't get chosen as leader in 2010 and got beat by Ed Miliband. There's a reason why he didn't get chosen in 2015 and got beat by Jeremy Corbyn. I was a Labour MP on both those occasions and didn't back him. Neither did the majority of the Parliamentary Labour Party. And the basic reason he didn't get supported then is because he's quite famous for being indecisive. And I have to say, most members of the Parliamentary Labour Party now just don't know this guy. They've come in relatively recently and just don't know who he is. And I think they've picked a dud, I'll be quite honest with you. Perhaps he's capable of doing local government, doing Greater Manchester, but in terms of running the country, this is not the man for the job. I have very little faith in his ability to deliver.
And it's a damning indictment of the Labour Party that they couldn't find one of 400 backbenchers to replace Starmer.
Yeah, that says everything that you need to know. They have to bring in a retread, somebody who's been a junior minister in previous Labour governments to do this job. What does it say about those cabinet colleagues, whether it's David Lammy or Angela Rayner or Lucy Powell, that you have to bring this guy back? He couldn't win in previous years, and yet they think he's the answer now. I really don't believe it bodes well for British politics, and it doesn't bode well for British government.
Well, Steve and Alan is with us in the studio, and Steve, we don't know what Andy Burnham's plans are, partly because I'm not sure Andy does.
Yeah, I mean, one of the complaints that we've had about the Labour government is they had so long out of power, what they could have done is come up with a plan, and they just didn't. Everyone was saying, you're going to win this election, and then when the tread hit the ground, it was like they had absolutely no idea. In this case, we've actually got a good reason to say why Andy Burnham doesn't have a plan. It was only like 2 minutes ago that he was absolutely nowhere near Parliament. So unsurprisingly, he doesn't have that much of a plan already mapped out, gamed, tested, focus grouped and all of that. So a lot of this will be made up on the fly, which is the risk, isn't it? It's what we're all saying. It seems like he's capricious, he's changeable. He changes as the wind blows. So that could end up with a chameleon Prime Minister who maybe will somehow magically be in a situation where the right thing gets done. But the fact that you can't guarantee it, and the fact that we've not been told what the direction of movement is and been asked if we're interested in it, it's just not the way this system's meant to work.
However, we do know, Simon, don't we, that Andy Burnham is a good communicator and a canny political operator. I mean, let's be honest, he's engineered his way into number 10, which is no mean feat. Is there a chance that what he'll do is pretend to be more left-wing than he is to keep the troops happy and then do the right thing for the country?
I'm not sure he will do the right thing for the country. I think he is lurching to the left. He's talking about a return to the 1970s. And part of the problem with not setting out a manifesto and not having a mandate is that we don't know where he's going, so the media are filling the void that he's managed to create, and it's a rerun of what Keir Starmer did in 2024. We quickly found out that he didn't have a plan, and there was a void there, and look where that led us. So I don't have too much faith in him. He is personable. You're exactly right to say that. He's a very personable guy. He has emotional intelligence. So that's a step up from Keir Starmer. There's no doubt about that. This guy does speak human, but that's not enough for running the country, is it? You know, we need decisiveness, leadership, a sense of direction and some vision. You won't get that from Andy.
Most definitely. Well, let's take a listen to the new leader of the Labour Party, the man that will be Prime Minister on Monday, talking about the UK during the 1980s.
I am clear Britain took a series of wrong turns in the 1980s. Political power was centralised and economic power was privatised. The country surrendered control of the essentials: housing, water, energy, transport, and left people exposed to higher costs. That in turn led to the concentration of more wealth and power in the hands of fewer people and fewer places.
Simon, Andy Burnham has decided to attack Margaret Thatcher, the Iron Lady, except that she's the Prime Minister that won 3 landslide election victories, partly off the back of working class voters. She presided over a growth in small and medium-sized enterprises, an economic revolution. She pretty much ended the class system. She liberated the working class with right to buy, and she won a war. Why is he attacking Thatcher?
I think Andy's had his head turned whilst he's been in Greater Manchester. I think he's become a little bit disconnected. And just compare what he's saying there to previous prime ministers. Tony Blair has celebrated and admired Margaret Thatcher, Gordon Brown, David Cameron. The list goes on of the prime ministers cross-party who've admired the vision and direction that Margaret Thatcher provided. So why he's coming out 40 years on? I mean, who else is he going to blame? We could go back to Ted Heath and further back than that. You know, he's talking. Why he's looking backwards as opposed to looking forwards, I think is quite interesting, isn't it? He's got this romantic view that many people have disconnected from many years ago, and he's trying to recreate something from Boys from the Black stuff or something. I don't know where the guy is going, but I don't believe it's the direction the country wants to go in.
Well, I completely agree. If you think about that with the historical perspective, Steve and Alan, the reason why, for example, HS2 was a disaster is because of Sir Robert Peel.
Yeah, oh, totally. And that David Lloyd George guy, oh, it's just he ruined this nation.
Well, he's the guy that won't stop the boats, Lloyd George, isn't it?
He certainly did nothing to stop the boats. I'll give you that. Yeah. No, you're right. It is just, it's signalling a thing, isn't it? I guess there are some people, this was more of a thing back in the 90s and 2000, though, but who had that just instant, oh, I don't like this type of politics. Let's just portray it as the bogeyman, her as the bogeyman of politics. But that has changed. Even Keir Starmer wrote a thing last year saying one of the people in politics that he admired was Margaret Thatcher. So I thought times have changed, and I'm not sure we benefit from that. As I say, I want someone who actually can operate well in the economic system that we have in 2026, rather than just going on about the 70s and 80s again.
This attack on Margaret Thatcher, Simon, to me reeks of student politics.
Yeah, I agree with that. And, you know, he's very closely aligned with Steve Rotherham, the mayor for Merseyside, isn't he? Yeah. And the two of them sort of do this northern double act. And it does feel like it's returning to that era. You know, he'll be bringing... I won't be surprised if he brings Michael Heseltine back, actually. He's still very much around. But I don't think this is the direction the country wants. I'm beginning to be concerned, and he hasn't yet become Prime Minister.
Well, I think that's definitely the issue. Do you feel sorry for Keir Starmer at this point, Simon? It was his election victory, his majority and his mandate.
I don't feel sorry for Keir Starmer for 1 millisecond. He's been the worst Prime Minister we've had so far, and I don't say that lightly. In my lifetime, he has been an absolute disaster from start to finish. And you talked earlier about, you know, giving them the benefit of the doubt when they first become Prime Minister. That's something I often do, and it's something I did with Starmer, but he just proved incapable of providing a vision and delivering for the country. I don't feel sorry for him at all.
And what about Nigel Farage? Because he's been at the CPAC Conservative conference in the last 24 hours. Let's hear his response to Andy Burnham's first speech as Labour leader.
But I'm doing this not because I want rank, title or position. I'm doing this because I fear this great country that we love. I can see this country. We are going down the drain. Britain is broken. We have to wake up to that fact, acknowledge the extent of the illness. And until we do that, we'll never be able to put the right cures in place. I'm doing this because I believe in Britain. I'm doing this because I believe we can turn this around and get this country back on the right track.
Steve, will Andy Burnham be a more difficult opponent for Nigel Farage?
Oh, definitely, because for some reason Keir Starmer was like self-immolating. And so actually, if Keir Starmer would have kept the job, this would have been another one, the next election would have been another one of those elections of whoever gets it handed to them because the last guys did so badly. Exactly what we've just had. We don't know what we've got with Andy Burnham, and one of the great strengths of Nigel Farage, he might have been my cup of tea in all directions, but he can certainly do a good speech, he can certainly bring people with him, he certainly communicates well, unless he's talking about donations and gifts. Whereas Keir Starmer was terrible at that, so TV debates between them would have been an easy win. Whereas Andy Burnham, one of the things we all seem to be learning is that he seems to be able to deliver those speeches and he seems to be able to speak with passion that we believe. So actually, he levels that metric.
What do you think, Simon? Will Nigel Farage struggle to oppose Andy Burnham, who is a very presentable and likeable figure?
Andy Burnham is more presentable, you're exactly right. But where he comes unstuck, and we've seen it in recent weeks, is that he's not very good at scrutiny, is he? I mean, he's avoided being scrutinised, he's avoided telling the public what he's going to, what his plan is. He's been worried about scaring the horses, and that does contrast with Nigel Farage. Farage takes questions from the media all the time. He's happy to meet the public and tell them what he thinks. That's very different from what you get with Andy Burnham. And at some stage, Burnham is going to be scrutinised. He's going to have to answer the question of what his plan is, and it's going to be found wanting. And the biggest issue that he's failed to address in any speech he's made in the last few weeks is illegal immigration. He hasn't said a thing on it. And if you just take that as one example, then he's going to be found wanting because he doesn't have a plan for it.
Well, Steve, before you rush off, there is one piece of good news for Andy Burnham, which is that he's now going to be our Prime Minister. He's got 3 years and a big majority, so it's all to play for.
It is, and if he's willing to spend some of that political capital in achieving some movement in the right direction, then all of a sudden I would change. I'm absolutely willing to say, you know, to give credit where it's due. So yeah, maybe things will head in the right direction. It's just all of the sounds we've heard so far seem terrifying, and that he wants to move in the other direction. But you're right. He has the majority. He possibly, through his greater use of communication, could bring more of those backbenchers with him to do things like welfare reform. We just hope it gets done. I mean, the last guy didn't manage it, and we're in a worse state for it now. So if he could do it, then great. And I mean, not eat my hat. I'm not willing to do that, and I don't wear one. But I would change my tune about Andy Burnham if he achieved some of those core things that we need to do.
Steve N. Allen is a national treasure comedian and the king of all media. You can see him on the radio and on the box and on YouTube. Give it a plug if you can, Steve, because it's well worth a chuckle.
Yes, youtube.com/@Mr. Stephen Allen. I apologise for the song in the last episode.
It's got to be done. I'm sure it will go viral, as we all will. Folks, listen, a fascinating conversation. Steve N. Allen returns. Catch up soon, Steve. Really enjoyed your company. And Simon Danchuk is staying with us. Will Andy Burnham be good for Britain? 7:20. This is Talk Breakfast.
We've got some breaking news that has just come in. talkSPORT have announced a brand new partnership in a developing story. We hear they've created So Good Lager right in time for football's big summer. Just in, we're hearing that So Good Lager will be pouring pints across all O'Neill's pubs and some of the best sports pubs across the UK. With the big kickoff just around the corner, you can find out where to get your hands on a fresh pint of So Good Lager at talksport.com/lager.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to Talk Breakfast 7:24. Will Andy Burnham be good for Britain? Simon Danchuk is a former Labour MP. And Simon, listening to Andy Burnham yesterday at the Trade Union Congress headquarters, which for me is a red flag, it felt like the audience was the Labour Party, not the British people.
I think that's a really good point. He's just talking to a small audience, isn't he? And that's what he's been doing from the moment that he launched his campaign to be endorsed as Prime Minister. And that should give us concern. And you're right, being picking that as a venue does suggest that this is a return to the 1970s, back to the trade unions, the winter of discontent, nationalisation. Why he's looking backwards rather than forwards is quite beyond me. But let's see what his plan is. I mean, we don't even know what his plan is yet. He's waiting until he gets into Downing Street on Monday, and then he'll reveal who his cabinet is and what his priorities are. But I don't think it bodes well for us. It really doesn't.
I don't think it does. It looks like Big Ange is back. Angela Rayner likely to be our next health secretary. Quite the political comeback, Simon.
Yeah, and that should concern us. I mean, she left government because she failed to pay £40,000 in stamp duty. I don't know how that qualifies her to come back. The suggestion is that she's going to come back as health secretary, which should also give us some concern. She's not the healthiest Labour figure that we've got to choose from. Apparently it's all about Burnham's plan for social care. This is an issue that he takes really seriously. His father had Alzheimer's, so it's very personal to him. He tried to do something about social care back in 2010 when he was health minister, health secretary under Gordon Brown, and failed to address it then. But he's talking now about doing something about it now. So, and she might be the woman that delivers that for him.
We can but hope, can't we? And what about illegal immigration? How will you interpret the departure of Shabana Mahmood from the Home Office? Because, I mean, I think, Simon, she's been one of the more capable ministers, particularly with her efforts to toughen up indefinite leave to remain. But it looks like those plans will be watered down and Shabana Mahmood leaves the Home Office.
Yeah, anything could happen here. There's talk that Shabana Mahmood will become the Chancellor of the Exchequer, and that could be a positive. I mean, she doesn't have loads of economic experience. I know her quite well. I was in the shadow business team with Shabana Mahmood and Chuka Umunna, if people remember him.
I do.
Back in the 2012s, 2013s. And she is a very capable minister. She's also what you would call blue Labour, so she's on the right of the Labour Party. So she might do a good job as Chancellor. But who's going to replace her as Home Secretary? I mean, all the others' names, whether it's West Streeton or anybody else, I just don't think will be as tough on immigration as she is.
No, and of course the party faithful don't want that.
No, that's exactly right. And what we're already seeing, and this should cause us concern, is splits within the Parliamentary Labour Party. You've got people saying that Ed Miliband should be the Chancellor, others saying that Shabana Mahmood should be the Chancellor. And so you've already got a rift within the Parliamentary Labour Party. He hasn't even taken office yet, and they're falling out between left and right within the Parliamentary Labour Party. It doesn't bode well.
Well, I think that's exactly right. And he's putting his cabinet together. The million-dollar question is, you know, what is his plan for government? The idea of devolving power into the regions is all well and good, Simon, but that will take years to feed through into our communities. Then he's talking about renationalising everything that moves. The only issue he's got is he's going to be Prime Minister for the next 2 or 3 years. He needs to move the dial straight away.
Yeah, he needs to show some quick wins, doesn't he? I'm not sure what he can do. I'm sure he has a plan for providing some quick wins. It'll be interesting to see what they are. But the country has some really big challenges, and it goes back to the speech that you showed around by Nigel Farage. Britain is broken. There's no doubt about that. You know, you've got Burnham talking about nationalisation, about council house building, these big plans, but they all take a long time. Changing social care, that takes a long time, and building, more social housing, more council housing. What, for more illegal immigrants to be put in? That's how the British public will see this. So there are some issues that he's not addressing and some issues that are just not joined up. And that's where I think he'll come unstuck.
Dave is in Essex. Dave, you are live with Simon Danczuk, former Labour MP. Good morning, sir.
Good morning to you, Mark.
Now, Dave, are you having Andy Burnham? Are you excited about your new Prime Minister?
Excited? He'll never make a Prime Minister as long as he's got an hole in the proverbial. He is not the material.
Why do you worry about Burnham? What's the problem, Dave?
The problem is he don't know where he's coming from. He's left Manchester, Greater Manchester, millions in debt. So what's he going to do with the country then?
And Dave, what do you make of his attack on Margaret Thatcher?
He has no right to do so. He doesn't even come near her for quality.
Well, you lived through her premiership. Can you tell me how the country changed while she was in power?
People had a positive attitude towards everything. Everything was positive. There was no doubt in people's mind that she was running the country and she was doing it properly.
Dave, thank you for that. I wish we had longer. Have an excellent Saturday. Well, forthright words there, Simon, from Dave, but I agree with every word.
Yeah, I think Dave makes a really good point, particularly about Burnham and his role in Greater Manchester. And it's well known that the role of mayor in any of these localities is really about receiving money from central government and then doling it out, just spending it. And that's what he's been doing in Manchester. It's not provided any real strong leadership. The truth is, people's living standards in Greater Manchester since he was mayor have gone down. And he's left very much a deficit there. He's been spending millions upon millions on the public transport system. I think it's about 250 million that the B network, the bus network, is subsidised by. So it's very easy to spend money, but what he's quickly going to find when he becomes Prime Minister, that he needs to bring money in and he needs to stimulate the economy, and he needs to increase productivity, and he needs to raise people's standards of living. And that's where he's going to find it a real challenge. This is very different from doing local government.
Barely a mention of economic growth in his speech yesterday, Simon, and no mention at all of immigration. Is that a red flag for you?
Yeah, it really is. How is he going to stimulate the economy? The economy's been faltering under the Labour government now for over 2 years. And there's been no real plan. I think who he chooses as Chancellor will affect that. But the idea is, and he's been flagging this up, that he's going to tax people more. More taxes is not sustainable. I mean, we must be on the cusp of paying more tax than practically anybody else in Europe. I mean, it's just not sustainable. And taxation will actually put a drag on economic growth, as it always does in any country.
Simon, you are the man. Thank you so much for joining us on Talk Breakfast. Have a good weekend. Send my best to the missus. We'll catch up soon. Simon Danczuk, former Labour MP, now Reform UK supporter and entrepreneur. Well, coming up at 7:32 on Talk Breakfast, Henry Novak's killer's mother has been jailed for hiding the murder weapon. We'll get reaction from a top cop next.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Will Andy Burnham be good for Britain? Here's a voice note from Bob.
Morning, Mark. It's Bob from Manchester. Andy Burnham is catapulted from cushy mayoral job in Manchester to leader of the United Kingdom. Well, listen, Andy, when you've let go of that tiger by the tail, what are you going to do about the unnecessary high food prices in the supermarkets and the highest taxation in the world, the highest energy in the world, the unpoliced state, the twisted judiciary, and of course the loud trumpeting elephant in the room, the ECHR? Cheers, Matt.
Well said, Bob. If you're not willing to leave, well said, Bob. If you're not willing to leave the ECHR, then you are not serious about stopping illegal immigration. Here's a voice note from Big Steve.
Hi, Mark. Steve here from Regent. Just to say, you are my favourite presenter.
Oh, thank you, Steve.
Grout, or whatever it could be, is Andy Burnham yesterday. What a joke, man. Do you know what he said? He did not mention once about the illegal immigrants, the boats, about the benefit cheats, because that's what happens all the time, the state on the streets, about people being mugged every day, stabbed every day, you know, crime and disorder. What's he done? He didn't even mention anything about that. The bloke is not a joke. This country is knackered. I really don't know where we're going to go from here, mate. Great show. Cheers, pal.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate that, Steve. Thank you for your kind words about the show. And also, I share your world-weary perspective on Andy Burnham, someone without a mandate, someone that's going to shift the country leftwards, even though we are on the verge of a sovereign debt crisis. Apparently, the answer is to renationalise everything and borrow and spend more money. Make it make sense. Even the IMF, who, let's be honest, are a left-wing organisation, are telling Andy Burnham that he cannot raise taxes any higher because it will destroy economic growth and it will see wealth creators leave the country, which, of course, they are doing in their numbers already. Here's a voice note from Kieran.
Morning, Mark. How you doing? Burnham's speech yesterday didn't mention anything at all, did he? Just more, let's hold hands and hope and dream for and wish for a better, bigger state, more socialism, and that's what I'm going to bring. Look, if you ever get the chance to speak to Lev, can you ask him what happened to his top lip? How's it morphed into the bottom of his nose? How's it all just one thing? And also, who voted for him? And if you can ask those questions, because I didn't vote for him, nobody I know voted for him, nobody I know wants him to be Prime Minister. Just ask him those questions. They're important. Cheers, mate.
Kieran, wise set of points, and thank you for that. Keep those voice notes coming. 03444991000. The mother of Henry Novak's killer has been jailed for hiding the weapon. Let's get reaction from Mike Neville, retired Scotland Yard Detective Chief Inspector. Good morning, Michael.
Yes, good morning, Mark.
Well, this is a happy headline for me. Nice to see justice here. Not only the egregious murder of Henry Novak, but the perversion of course of justice by the killer's mother.
Yes, she's been sentenced for assisting an offender, which means you've helped them after the crime has occurred. But this 3 years, of course, you have the eternal dishonesty of the criminal justice system in the sense that it's 3 years, but it's only sort of 40% of 3 years. And then she's been told she could maybe get a home detention curfew, which means you get a tag.
That sounds nice.
Well,
wake up in your own beds.
Absolutely. And that means in consequence, she's likely to serve about 7 or 8 months. So this talk of 3 years is nonsense.
Wait a minute. Wait, hold your horses, Mike. How many months is she likely to serve?
8.
Well, that would be about 5 or 6 months fewer than Lucy Connolly, who was jailed for over a year for a tweet that she deleted and apologised for.
Absolutely. And in addition to that, if you remember, Digwar's brother was one of the main people who was trying to make excuses and painted this picture that it was a racist attack, so deflected all the police attention. He hasn't been charged with the assisting an offender at all. He has simply he's going to magistrates court in September about having some weapons, so he's very unlikely to go to jail at all. So when people talk about two-tier justice, all this does, and Robert Jenrick has said the same, it is really confirmed to people that this is what's going on.
How is Digwar's brother not going to jail, given that we've heard the audio of him lying to police officers on a 999 call? We've heard the evidence, Mike.
Absolutely, and as I say, the offence is called assisting an offender, where you try to deflect from, do an act which helps a person who's committed a crime get away with it. And as you say, we can hear that on that video. It's absolutely shameful.
Well, it is shameful, and that call made by the brother, who, as you say, will not face censure and walks free, that call meant that when the police arrived, they prejudged Henry Novak and handcuffed him as he bled out of his own body. So you can prove that not just the mother and the killer himself, but the brother was a part of what happened to Henry Novak and his tragic end.
Absolutely. You could say that he played a major part in potentially killing Henry Novak. It's absolutely wicked. Why didn't Hampshire police do anything about this? Why didn't the Crime Prosecution Service do something? It just, as I say, people look at these things and they think if it was anybody else, they would face severe punishment, and rightly so.
Do you think, Michael, that the culture of policing will change in the light of Henry Novak's murder and the police's shocking handling of it?
I really hope so, Mark. This is a long process. We've had 2 or 3 decades since the Macpherson report where wokeness has actually riddled the police force. And so to get rid of it, as I said, I've said before on this show, the only way to do it is if you look at after the Second World War, the Allied forces carried out a denazification process in Germany to get rid of that wickedness there. If we can do it then, we could do it now. But what it needs is the will to do it. And I've got to be honest that under a Labour government, you're not going to get any sort of de-wokification of any organisation because the MPs actually believe in the stuff.
And let's look at the significance of Novak's killer's mother and her actions, because she concealed the weapon, which very much impeded the police's investigation into this crime.
Absolutely. She put it back with a group of other weapons, and then it took the police a week to actually find it. So that delayed the investigation significantly. And what's critical here, of course, is you can only be kept in police custody without charge for 4 days. And so any forensic analysis of the blade, the blood thereon, would never have been able to be put to an interview. So in practical measures, if you get some forensic evidence, like you take a sword to the forensic science laboratory and they say that blood by DNA matches Henry Novak's blood, in the interview, you can say to the suspect, I'm going to show you this, what you got to say about it. And if somebody doesn't say anything, or gives an excuse, that can be used at court to say, look, they were presented with the evidence and they said nothing, and that can be inferred against them. That was denied. Her actions denied the police the opportunity of having that forensic evidence available for the interview.
And for this woman to walk free potentially after 8 months brings our criminal justice system into disrepute.
If it's not already in disrepute, Mark, this has been going on for many, many years. When I was a young policeman, I remember arresting a man and thinking, why is he on the street? Because he broke into a house and raped a woman. He got 9 years for rape, and he got 2 years for the burglary. Now, in anybody's mind, I don't know about yours, 9 plus 2, I was taught at primary school, is 11. But of course, the 2 was concurrent to the 9, so that means 9 years. He served half, 4.5. So in the legal mind, 9 plus 2 equals 4.5. It's been going on for years and it needs to stop.
And, Mike, we're going to have a new Prime Minister on Monday. Andy Burnham is already the leader of the Labour Party. Do you think he's going to get on top of law and order?
No, I don't think he's going to get on top of that at all. The Labour Party will forever see offenders as some kind of victims of society. They've always been the same. Any reduction in sentences and like usually comes under a left-wing government. So I can't see it getting any better at all. It's rather tragic. He's a sort of false. He makes me ashamed to be a Northerner. He's a big act. And as we say, the left never sleep. But I'll tell you what, Mark, the worst thing for me with him is he's never had a proper job. All these career politicians. And I would like to get involved in politics. And, the first law I would bring in is you can't be an MP unless you've done 10 years' work outside politics. When you go to Parliament, you should bring experience of being a teacher, a nurse, a businessman, a soldier, a trade union leader, whatever. But you should bring to that Parliament experience. And he brings nothing apart from politics, and we need to be rid of all that as soon as possible.
Amen to that. Mike, I wish we had longer. Have an excellent Saturday, and we will speak soon. Mike Neville, retired Scotland Yard Detective Chief Inspector, who has just said to me on Talk Breakfast that the mother of Henry Novak's killer will likely walk free from jail after 8 months, having concealed the murder weapon. Talk about broken Britain. More to come, 7:46. This is Talk Breakfast. Miss Keir Starmer. I miss the guy. He is the lesser of two evils because Andy Burnham is going to be so left-wing as a Prime Minister because he's being propelled to power by a cadre of left-wing figures within the party. He'll be backed by the unions. When he gets in, Alex, they will expect their pound of flesh. This guy is wedded to the failed and ruinous ideology of socialism.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
7:48, you are listening to Talk Breakfast. What will be the legacy of Harry and Meghan's return to the United Kingdom and the face-to-face meeting between King Charles and his grandchildren in Highgrove House? Who better to ask than someone that knows Harry and King Charles intimately well, the royal butler, Grant Harold. Good morning, Grant.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm very well. Did it surprise you that in the end, notwithstanding all the negative headlines about Harry's accommodation at Buckingham Palace, he said, she said, that the face-to-face meeting eventually did happen?
Half and half, to be honest with you. Part of me hoped and assumed that they would meet, but then with everything kind of taking place, I started thinking maybe it's unlikely. The only thing that was interesting that I kind of did guess that the meeting, I did have a feeling if it took place, it would be at Highgrove, only because of how, I'm sure you've been to Highgrove, Matt, but it's in a very secluded, very private location, so it just made sense.
Well, I think it did make sense, and it was a coup for Prince Harry to get that face-to-face meeting with his father, with Meghan back on royal property, and a face-to-face between the king and his grandchildren. Quite the moment for the family.
It was, Matt, and I think what also did surprise me, but I was really happy about it, was the fact that was being told that she was at Rayner, which is a house not too far from her other home, and she actually returned from Rayner to Highgrove to be there for the actual meeting, to be there for this. I'm sure for many reasons. One is obviously his backup, but also support, and to be there to meet her step-grandchildren. So it's quite hats off to her, because I thought it was such a big thing, considering what had all taken place and what had been said.
Now, does the fact that the Sussexes with their children were able to go to Highgrove, they flew into the country, they go to Highgrove, perhaps other parts of the UK as well, and then they go back home, does it make a mockery of their demands for 24/7 royal security, given that that was not provided?
Oh, Matt, this is what everyone's saying, and this is the big question everyone's kind of asking, is why do they want all the security if they were able to, especially with Meghan coming? Nobody saw her. There was no footage of her. She managed to come into the country with the children, do what they had to do, and then leave again. And of course, it's been said that she was saddened that she wasn't able to be with her husband for many of the events. But you're right. I think this does prove a point. And the other thing quickly to mention, Matt, is I said to the lovely Joan Katie, that you know as well, the other day I mentioned to them that Princess Anne quite famously wanders around near where I live quite often without any security, or with one detective maybe in the background. So it's quite interesting you've got such a senior member of the royal family who, does live with that possible daily threat, able to fill her normal duties as well as her public duties without this big presidential security detail that Harry wants.
Well, I've heard reports of Prince William attending school sports days with, again, minimal security, and he's going to be our next king.
Yeah, absolutely. And furthermore, the king himself, if you're up in Highgrove, sometimes in a blue moon, you might even spot him out and about, especially in Scotland, which is where they're heading off to in the next week, Mark, up to Balmoral. You'll quite often see them out and about. And again, with very little or no security around them. So, and this is the king we're talking about, and you just said the heir.
Most definitely. What did you make of the war of words between the firm, the royal family, the management of the royal family, and Harry and Meghan in regard to Harry's accommodation, with this extraordinary row over Buckingham Palace and whether or not rooms were offered?
Yeah, well, the first thing, Mark, is I'm sure you're aware with Buckingham Palace, there's always rooms. There's always accommodation. We would never, ever put the impression, when I worked there, that if somebody wanted a room, especially a member of the family, we're the ones that will give them the moment's notice, So I find this very hard to believe. I think quite simply, the way Harry dealt with it, I think the palace thought, do you know what? We're going to take back control of the situation and, give a very polite response and just say that, with the time frame and everything, it's not possible to fulfill his request. So I think it was a little bit of tit for tat, but we've seen this before, Matt, haven't we? We saw this 6 years ago, or whenever it was, when the war, when they had the Sandringham summit and everything, and we had the big initial fallout, and the palace saying one thing and Harry's camp saying another. So this is an example of how we still have it many years on, and it shows that behind closed doors there's still a lot of friction going on.
Now, on a personal note, Grant, I'm happy that the King was able to spend time with his grandchildren, but do you think the Sussexes will be disappointed that they did not get a photograph of this meeting, given that it would enhance their brand?
Absolutely, of course. I mean, you're right. I mean, of course, I'd love a photo of this because it would give them that round endorsement. Doesn't mean to say, Mark, it's interesting. It absolutely doesn't mean to say that there wasn't a photograph taken privately behind scenes, which, you know, hopefully, and I only say this from the King's point of view, hopefully that never sees the light of day. Unless, can you imagine, we have a Christmas broadcast or a message from the King, and we see that image, not that we'll know it was taken then, but we see that image behind him. That's the only telltale sign that we might ever get. So it's possible there was one, but certainly it would have been under the King's instruction. It wouldn't have been something I very much doubt Harry and Meghan would have asked. Or maybe they did, but I'm sure it'd be a very awkward thing if they did.
Well, I think you're right. I think that it was the King flexing his muscles and arguably, Grant, calling the bluff of the Sussexes, saying, OK, well, you're so keen for Archie and Lily to spend time with their grandfather. We'll do that, but it's going to be behind closed doors.
Absolutely, and that's why Highgrove's so perfect. I mean, I said the other day it's possible that because he loves Highgrove and he feels very safe at Highgrove, and you've got the beautiful gardens, and quite often in the afternoon he'll go and take his tea in the gardens or have a bit of downtime in the gardens. So I could almost visualise that's where this meeting took place, in the beautiful surroundings of the Cotswolds countryside at Highgrove. I'm sure over some tea, and I'm sure with the children around, the conversation would have stayed very light. I suppose very kind of generic. So I don't think there would be any kind of serious discussions taking place. But at least, as you said, Matt, at least the King got to spend time with his grandchildren. And as I said earlier, it's just wonderful that Queen Camilla, it just shows what she's like. She's able to rise above everything that's been said, everything's been done, not only to her, but also to the man that she loves. And she's able to be there by her side to be there for this really important meeting.
Now, we haven't spoken since Harry lost his court case against the publishers of the Daily Mail, and you covered it brilliantly on your hit YouTube show, The Royals Uncensored, Grant. How damaging has that court case loss been to Harry, not just financially, but in terms of his reputation?
Oh, absolutely. And as you know, Matt, our lovely Katie Nicholl was very much kind of, part of all that as well. And, and so I'm fully aware of how much that affected people and upset people, and how damaging, obviously for those people, also, for reputations and everything at the time, thankfully, before we got the verdict. But I mean, for Harry, it's very much egg on the face, isn't it? It's very much, again, it's another court case that's gone wrong. Thankfully, if I can say gone wrong. And I just don't understand why he keeps doing this. He keeps wanting to have all these legal court cases every 5 minutes. And as I said before, the late Queen in lifetime had 2 genuine reasons for a court case. And that was the only times that she did it. But Harry seems to just want to do it all the time. And I think this is I'm hoping this shows them that, that when it goes wrong, when it goes against you, one, it's embarrassing, and also it's very costly, because apparently the costs are going to be quite high, and I don't quite know how he's going to be able to afford that. Maybe another Netflix series.
Or another book, Spare Two. This time it's
Two.
personal. I mean, that's a worry, isn't it? What do you think Harry's brother, William, will have made of the royal reunion?
My gut is he would have probably said to his father to be cautious.
Yeah.
I think he would obviously not want to be there for very obvious reasons. I think he'd been very keen. I'm sure he would love to be a fly on the wall, but I'm sure his father updated him right after the meeting as to what all took place. I think what's difficult for the King is, as we said, he wants to meet his grandchildren. He wants the meeting to take place. I'm sure you've got William there saying, Dad, you've got to be really, really careful, because this could completely backfire. And I'm sure William doesn't want it to backfire, but I think there's been already quite a few occasions where William's probably turned around to his father and sadly said, "See, Dad, I told you so." And it's really awkward for the King, because, this is his son, he probably knows his son is right with what he's saying, but he's still a father, he's still a grandfather, and he's still trying to do that job as well.
And there's a worry, isn't there, that the Sussexes will try to create a rival royal court in California, and that will sow seeds of destruction for the royal family here in the UK in the future.
It certainly would, Mark, if they start that kind of thing, because at the end of the day, they've gone out there, they wanted a life away from the royal way of life. If they're now creating a kind of mini royal court out there, I mean, I don't think America's going to thank them for it, and I think it's going to cause a lot of problems, and it will upset his family.
Grant, we always love having you on the show, and we're absolutely blown away by the Royals Uncensored. It is explosive stuff. It is on
thank
YouTube.
you. Can I also quickly say you're an amazing guest? Thank you for coming on as well.
You're too kind. Well, look, it was great to be part of it, and I'll see you very soon in the studio for that. Grant, we'll catch up soon. Grant Harold, the royal butler, a man that knows Harry and Charles intimately well, and who says, yes, the Sussexes are effectively creating a rival royal court. Let me tell you, that doesn't end well. Meanwhile, we've got a new Prime Minister. Do you rate Burnham? This is Talk Breakfast.
This journey of me following the migrants went from sort of 10 in the morning, all around the clock, to late at night, to the point where, you know, on buses, on trains, through streets, at every key point, French military police and the French police, they were there. They were on the bus, taking down notes, taking pictures, but not doing anything to deter the migrants or stop them, just being there. I was sat in the tent and he was showing me through photos of his phone, scrolling through. This was barbaric, horrific stuff. Blokes going through walls in vehicles and then jumping out and shooting everyone. You know, his WhatsApp picture was him with a mask on, with a gun like that.
You're in a tent with this guy?
I'm in a tent with this guy, and actually he's just showing me this stuff. I'm just thinking, this is not the kind of bloke you want to be coming to the UK.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Three minutes past 8. Get the kettle on, folks. We got work to do. Top of the morning, happy Saturday, one and all. Mark Dolan on Talk Breakfast. And breaking as we come on air, Big Ange is back. The mojito-swilling vape lover, Angela Rayner, is expected to be Britain's next health secretary. You couldn't make it up. Still, it will boost her income and maybe give her a chance to get on the housing ladder and boost her property portfolio. Maybe buy another flat in Hove. Don't forget the stamp duty, Ange. Meanwhile, the tough on immigration Shabana Mahmood is to be removed from the Home Office, we're told. Does this prove that Andy Burnham has no intention of stopping the boats? Meanwhile, the former Greater Manchester Mayor, who enters Downing Street on Monday, has said, when in doubt, blame Margaret Thatcher. But is he right to attack the Iron Lady? That is the topic of today's Dolan's Dispatch. What do you think? Were we better off in the 80s? We had an economic boom. The working class of this country were liberated by right to buy. We won a war. Doesn't sound too shoddy to me. So is Andy Burnham right to attack the Iron Lady? And will he be good for Britain? What do you think? Because I don't know. Does he deserve a crack of the whip? Should we give him a chance? My phone number is 03444991000. Text the word TALK and your message to 87222, or leave us a voice note. And as the saying goes, let's talk. Delighted to say you can hear us on the radio, DAB+, in-app and online. You can also watch the show. Head to YouTube, search Talk, and up we pop. Let's take a voice note on Andy Burnham from lovely Helen.
Morning, Mark. Helen in Knutsford here. I'm sure we'd all love to have Margaret Thatcher back. Andy Burnham, can anyone get excited about him? And if they can someone please tell me why? Can he tell us all why? Because that would be great.
Well, that's a brilliant voice note. How about this from James?
Good morning, Mark. Now, this country, we're going to have the great messiah, Andy Burnham, in office on Monday. Not even elected. Let that sink in once again. And also the fact that we've just given 153 million quid taxpayers' money to Pakistan for foreign aid, and we can't even deport this monster back to where he belongs. Unbelievable, Mark. Unbelievable. I can't believe how far this country has gone. We need the Conservatives and the Tories to never, ever be in power again, because they are taking us for absolute mugs. I feel like a turkey that's just about to be in Bernard Matthews' hands, Mark, to be honest with you. I'm never going to give up, but I feel like it. Anyway, Mark, keep up the great work. I'm looking forward to Dolan's Dispatch again. Superb. I've said it before and I'll keep saying it again. Dolan's Dispatch is absolutely superb. Thanks, Mark.
James, that means the world. I really appreciate it. And you had me chuckling with your Bernard Matthews. You spoke very well. James, let me say that you must keep the faith. There is always hope. We will save Britain. But I've got to tell you, it's going to get worse before it gets better. Another source of positive energy is the star columnist at the Daily Express and the host of the hit YouTube show, The Daily Espresso, JJ Anasiobi. Good morning, James.
Good morning, Mr. Dolan.
Now,
can I say,
yeah, go on.
Love Bernard Matthews turkey drummers.
They are delicious, I got to say. Pure protein. JJ, listen, we need to be positive, don't we? Because, yes, the country is going down the drain. Britain is very firmly broken. And we've got a new Prime Minister coming in that no one elected, that has no mandate. But we will have an election in 2 or 3 years' time, and we must keep the faith.
Absolutely. Look, we didn't vote for Burnham, but this isn't the first time we've had a Prime Minister that the country didn't get to vote for. So I'm hesitant to say, well, because we didn't vote for him, he shouldn't be in charge. You've got people in Reform who defected from the Tories who didn't then call a by-election when they defected, and they're okay with that. So I don't think we can really say, okay, we've got to call a general election now because we've got a new Prime Minister. No, the Tories swapped Prime Ministers a few times and didn't call an election, so it's fine for Labour to do the same, really. Burnham, I just don't think he's any different to Starmer. Not at the core of it, he's not different. On the surface, yeah, he dresses better, he's a much better orator, and he's a lot more charming. He knows what to say to the press. He knows where his best angle is. Starmer didn't. But that's the only difference. When it comes down to his core values, when it comes down to his plan, they keep saying he's got a plan, he's got a plan, he's got a plan. We don't know what the plan is yet, but he's got a plan. His plan will be very similar to Starmer's. It won't be anywhere near different or radical enough to we bring the change that the country needs.
Well, here's what bothered me, JJ, about his speech yesterday, apart from the fact that he read from notes and had to look down at his notes a couple of hundred times, which doesn't sound like a conviction politician to me. He also talked very much to the Labour Party rather than the country. Take a listen to this.
I am clear, Britain took a series of wrong turns in the 1980s. Political power was centralised and economic power was privatised. The country surrendered control of the essentials: housing, water, energy, transport, and left people exposed to higher costs. That in turn led to the concentration of more wealth and power in the hands of fewer people and fewer. As your leader, I will set a direction that is distinctively Labour. We won't try to out-green the Greens or out-reform reform, or doing what we've done in the past of wearing too many Tory clothes. Let me tell you, I'm quite happy that Kemi doesn't approve of my wardrobe choices, because I'm not keen on theirs either. From here, we do it differently.
Now, JJ, when he says Labour are going to be more Labour under his leadership, that is code for a more left-wing administration.
Possibly, but I think it's also a dig at Starmer, because we all know Starmer he came to power only because we were sick of the Tories. We didn't vote for Labour because we thought they were going to be amazing. We thought they can't be worse than the Tories.
Yeah.
And then Starmer proved to be worse than the Tories. Freezing our pensioners, that is not very Labour. Raising taxes to the hilt, yeah, it's kind of Labour, but letting people be on benefits and us having more money going into benefits than we're bringing in from hard work people paying tax, that is not Labour. So I think Burnham's going to get back to what people consider to be more Labour and less of what Starmer did. And ultimately, yes, he was speaking to the Labour Party, but a lot of Labour voters moved across to the Greens, and a lot of Labour voters have gone towards reform. He needs to get those people back voting for Labour. So we'll see what he does. I'm not hopeful. I've been around long enough to know that Andy Burnham is not going to be drastically different. He really ain't. And I spoke to you yesterday about this, Mark. I think for the first 3 months, he'll be in a honeymoon period. He'll be on a charm offensive. He'll be going around to all the usual media spots. He'll talk to the BBC because they'll be kind to him. He'll go and talk to Christian Guru Murty on Channel 4, and he'll give him a nice little interview. He'll do Katie Burley or someone like that. Go to Sky News. And then by around December, when we start to realise actually the country is not actually improving, he's not stopped the boats. Crime is still crazy on our streets. Knife crime is still crazy. Unemployment is still rising. Young people still can't get jobs. And then people will start saying, and I can't believe this, but people will start saying, actually, maybe that robot Starmer was a better choice. Maybe he was the right one, which is nuts. Because Starmer's been terrible. Starmer's been absolutely terrible. And yet people are going to be, by Christmas, I'm telling you, by Christmas time, people in this country will be saying, actually, that robot was better.
And what do your army of readers at the Daily Express make of Andy Burnham coming in without a mandate?
I don't think anyone really believes him. Like, yesterday in his speech, he said he hasn't formulated his cabinet yet. How have you not formulated your cabinet yet, mate? You've got a plan. You must know the people you want to be part of that plan. You definitely have got your cabinet already ready to go. You know who you want. We know he's done deals with Rayner. We know he's done deals with West Streeting. They're going to get some nice prim jobs in his cabinet. So already he's starting off on a lie. No one believes him that you're going to be Prime Minister and you haven't, or tomorrow you're going to be Prime Minister, sorry, on Monday. On Monday? Yeah.
Monday.
We can count down the hours and you're telling me you haven't yet started on your cabinet. Well, if that's true, then you are already proven to be inept. But I don't think that is true. I think he's simply lying. And I don't know what the benefit of it is. So the press stop asking questions of him? I don't know. But no, I don't think anyone believes him already. Already, people don't believe him. But the proof will be in the pudding, or in his case, the proof will be in the gravy.
Well, let's talk about Big Ange and her return. Are you a fan of the ginger growler? I've heard you are.
I know you do this. I know you do this to me, Mark. Oh, my God.
Well, she's going to be, we're told, the health secretary. This is someone that's endlessly chowing down vape cigarettes and is even more fond of mojito cocktails than you are.
I do love a margarita. I love margarita. Listen, with Ange, she's going to get a decent job. She's in the cabinet, 100%.
Why?
Because
she's a tax avoider.
She did the deal with Burnham months ago. He was working in the background, meeting him, plotting Starmer's downfall. So they have a pact. Same as West Streeting. West Streeting has an agreement with him. They'll be getting prim jobs. I don't think, from what I've been told, she's not going to be health secretary.
Wow.
I'm told that's going back to Streeting, is what I've been told. He'll come back in and
that's get that. Interesting. Why does Streeting keep the health department?
Because it's the department that he actually likes. It's the one he wants. Right. He thinks he's best in. With Ange, I'm told she could be going for the Home Office or possibly, I had a list actually. Where's my list? Home Office. She's not Chancellor, so it's Foreign Office or Home Office. That's what I'm told she may.
Well, I mean, this troubles me, JJ, that your insiders are telling you that she gets Foreign Secretary or Home Secretary. Do we want Big Ange representing the UK on the world stage? And do we want her, if she's Home Secretary, responsible for immigration?
Well, it depends how tough she's going to be, doesn't it? It depends how tough she's going to be. On immigration, it depends how tough she's going to be. Is she going to stop the boats? The truth is, Mark, I don't think Labour or the Tories are going to stop the boats. The Tories had 14 years to do it.
Yeah.
They didn't. It only increased under Boris Johnson, legal and illegal. And Labour haven't been doing it. They can say, oh, it's down, deportations are up, and yeah, okay, but the boats haven't stopped, and they're not going to stop them. So I don't think it matters who they put in that position. No one in Labour is going to stop those boats, unfortunately.
No. Go on.
Only realistically, only reform or restore are going to do it. They'll do what is necessary. No, the other parties aren't going to do it. They're too scared of the electorate.
Which is why a lot of your readers at the Daily Express are very interested in Farage as a potential Prime Minister. Many of your readers, ex-Labour voters who have had enough.
Yeah, that's right. We can't just have rhetoric anymore.
Yeah.
People are sick of hearing the same thing. We change the leader, but nothing. The outcomes stay the same. Nothing changes. So whether it's Johnson, whether it's Sunak, whether it's Truss, whether it's May, whether it's Starmer, now it's going to be Burnham. The rhetoric can continue. And if Burnham is this lefty lovey that he says he is, we know it's against his morals and against his ideology to actually stop the votes. There's no way it's going to happen. One of your voice notes that came in earlier, I heard the guy saying about us paying 200 odd million to Pakistan in foreign aid, and yet they're refusing to take back a known sex offender. Why are we giving them the cash? We should be withholding the money and saying to them, yeah, every illegal person who comes in from Pakistan, every person who comes to Pakistan legally and overstays their visa, you take them back now. If you don't, we cut all aid.
Well, I completely agree. If I was Prime Minister, I would limit foreign aid to earthquakes, floods, forest fires and starvation, right? Famines. That's it. That's what, you know, so Egypt gets an earthquake, we send some food, we send some resources, no problem. That's what foreign aid should be, not for the Ethiopian Spice Girls, even though I'm told you're quite fond of of hot spice. Where's this going? I better be careful. It's a conversation that could cancel me. Listen, let's take a listen, if we can, JJ, to the leader of Reform UK responding to Andy Burnham's first speech as Labour Party leader.
But I'm doing this not because I want rank, title or position. I'm doing this because I fear this great country that we love. I can see this country. We are going down the drain. Britain is broken. We have to wake up to that fact, acknowledge the extent of the illness. And until we do that, we'll never be able to put the right cures in place. I'm doing this because I believe in Britain. I'm doing this because I believe we can turn this around and get this country back on the right track.
Do you think Nigel Farage will find Andy Burnham a more difficult opponent, JJ?
Absolutely. He absolutely will. Farage likes to go on about things like, I drink pints and I've got a good ale, I'm down the pub and I smoke my cigarettes, I'm a man of the people. Andy Burnham is the same, but he's doing it with gravy and liking popular music. They're two sides of the same coin, you know. He'll be much more charming, he'll be much more charismatic than Starmer. And Andy Burnham, he won't mind calling people out. If he thinks Farage said something grotesque, he'll say, "No, that's disgusting. I'm mad for it, me. That's mad, that is." Whereas Starmer would be a bit more diplomatic. I think Burnham will pull the gloves off. But, you know, I do like Nigel Farage. I agree with some of the things he says, but I don't like anyone talking down our country. Britain isn't broken. It's just not as good as it used to be. That's the problem. But it's still, for me, I've lived in foreign countries. Britain is still, for me, the best country in the world. It's not where I'd like it to be, of course not. And we've got a huge amount of problems, but it's a lot worse than other places. I was at CPAC yesterday talking to a politician from Canada, and he was telling me about the problems in their country. And I said, I've never heard any of this. This doesn't get reported over here about how bad things are in Canada.
Yeah.
But the rest of the world is going through issues also. I don't think Britain is as bad as Nigel Farage would like us to think it is, but fear drives votes. Fear drives emotion. If you keep being told, this is terrible, you can do better than this is horrible, I'm going to be the change for you, then people start to believe it. But I'm telling you, most of the UK is 1,000 times better than other countries in the world.
Well, I agree with you, but we're in decline, aren't we? And my worry, JJ, is that if we continue with this consensus of the cult of welfarism, where the cost of welfare now is higher than the income tax take of the country, if we continue to have unsustainable legal immigration, if the boats keep coming, if we deindustrialise ourselves with net zero, then we will be broken. And that's the point, isn't it?
Yeah, if we continue this way, absolutely. But there's been no, maybe under Tony Blair, perhaps under Tony Blair, we had an era of prosperity. There's no time in British history when we've been just completely soaring continually with no issues. There's always going to be...
Since the 80s, under Margaret Thatcher, who Andy Burnham has decided to attack. I mean, JJ, we had 5% economic growth in 1987. We had social mobility. She pretty much ended the class system. We saw the fall of the Iron Curtain, and we won a war. And he thinks that was a bad era.
Well, for some communities in this country, it was terrible. You go to the mining towns, they don't remember Thatcher fondly. The press at the time did not like Thatcher. We can look back at her now and say, actually, she did some great things. But at the time, yes, huge amounts of this country, places like Wales, you go to North, Newcastle, Durham, those areas that relied on industrial jobs, they were decimated. And a lot of those areas still haven't recovered. So for those people, they won't be saying to you today, Mark, oh, I totally agree, this has been great. For Port Talbot in Wales, she was amazing. No, lots of people, families and generations have been decimated because of Thatcher's ideas of, no, we must take this away from here, we must move industrialization over here. For me and my family, Thatcher was great. My parents were able to buy a council house, which they wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. So for my family, it was wonderful. But for lots of people in this country, that wasn't great. Having said that, Burnham doesn't need to go back as Thatcher. Things that Tony Blair did, laws that Tony Blair ushered in, have also then accounted for and decimated this country. I don't think it's right to go back to Thatcher and say, as if everything she did was terrible, because it wasn't. Plenty of things she did were great, but we don't have to go as far back as Thatcher to look at where things went wrong. We can go back as far as just to Boris Johnson. The Johnson wave, that was terrible. A Conservative man, Conservative Prime Minister, but he actually was just a liberal, a complete and utter liberal. Things that Johnson did have ruined the country. But going back to Thatcher, again, it's just Burnham playing to his audience. He knows, he's talking to Labour members. They don't like Thatcher. He'll get some cheers. Well, that's just pathetic.
Student politics. He is coming in hot this morning. JJ Anasiobi is the star columnist at the Daily Express newspaper, and he's taking your calls next. Will Andy Burnham be good for Britain? 8:23 Talk Breakfast.
Well, this isn't the first time this has happened, and FIFA need to get serious about political sloganising at the World Cup. We've seen numerous examples of this. We've seen the pro-Palestine nonsense. We've now seen the Falkland Islands nonsense going on. If FIFA allow this to continue, they run the risk that the beautiful game is going to be politicised endlessly going forward. There should be a ban on Argentina going forward because of this behaviour, and the players, might need to be suspended as a result of this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Craig in Lincoln has said Margaret Thatcher did not close as many coal mines as Labour did whilst they were in power. Thank you for that, Craig. Will Andy Burnham be good for Britain? Tony is in Hertfordshire. Tony, you are live with the star columnist at the Daily Express, JJ Anisiobi. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mark. Good morning, Jay. Just a quick call, and I'll try and make an analogy. If a company launches a product which doesn't work, initially, if they have pretty packaging, there's an impulse purchase, people take it off the shelf, go home and say, this doesn't work. Eventually, the company has to make a decision. In this case, like the Labour Party, you just take the same product, put it in different packaging, and hope that you get away with it. Frankly, leaving aside democracy and a mandate, this is exactly what is happening in this country, and I think it's appalling.
What do you think about that, JJ?
I think that he's absolutely right. But this is politics, unfortunately. The only way for us to stop it from happening again is to change the law. I think if we said, if you get the job as Prime Minister and you decide to leave, or your cabinet desert, you have to quit, then a general election must be called instantly. I think if we did that, we'd have a lot less PMs quitting. We saw the continual go around with the Tories after May, and then who was after May?
Then we had Boris
Johnson, and then we had Sunak versus Truss.
Correct.
And Truss lasted less time than a lettuce, and then Sunak. So there's no way that Burnham and Labour are going to come into power now and say, you know what, let's call a general election. They're just not going to do it, because they know if people went and voted now, there's a very good chance they're going to lose, or at the very least have to form some kind of coalition. But I think that the court makes a good point, and we should absolutely look to change the law that says, yeah, if the Prime Minister changes, then a general election must be called.
Most definitely. I mean, it's not a great vote of confidence, JJ, in our democracy, is it? Parachuting in a regional mayor that wasn't even in the House of Commons to become Prime Minister.
Mark, they had 403 Labour MPs. Out of 403 Labour MPs, not one of them thought themselves good enough to go up against Starmer. Not one person from Labour, out of 403 of them who were elected, not one single person thought they could become Prime Minister. So they had to go and get a regional mayor who's done all right in Manchester. It's overread how much he's transformed Manchester, to be honest. That is overread. But he's done a decent job. But he's tried to be leader of the party before, and the party rejected him. And now, you're right, he's been parachuted in. It shows you how low our politics have fallen in this country. Gone are the days. I grew up in an era as a kid listening to people like Paddy Ashdown and thinking, my goodness, this man is fantastic. Who we got now in the Lib Dems leading? Ed Davey. What a joke of a politician. Yeah. And you go through the Labour Party, go through the cabinet. There's no leaders. It's a cabinet full of sheep. That's what we've got now, a cabinet and a House of Commons full of sheep, no leaders.
Who have, of course, never run a business in their lives. Sean is in Henley. Good morning, Sean. You're live with JJ Anisiobi from the Daily Express.
Hi, good morning, Mark. Love you and love your show.
Thank you, Sean.
I was just saying to your researcher that, you know, over the last 20 years, I hoped for Brexit. I hoped to get out of the EU, yeah? I could see the way that everything was running. Now we're in this position now where the Tories over 14 years could never get things done. They lied, the COVID inquiry, all these things that now are coming out. I think now it's the popcorn time. I'm just happy now that I know that in 2.5 years that Labour will be gone forever, and so will the Tories. So people will have to make a decision on this weak government, that this just plays into everything that we as people, hard-working people, go to work every day to know that our streets are safe, which they're not. Mayors are given all these powers, which is another way of failing the country by diluting it. I mean, what's this going to cost to move number 10 up to... I mean, what's he thinking? What's this guy thinking?
Oh, it's a gimmick, isn't it, Sean?
Yes,
Number 10 North is a gimmick. I also find it patronising.
Yeah, and I do as well, because, I mean, what is he thinking? He's not even in government yet. He wasn't even in the manifesto. He's not even bringing anything about that. He's not even asking questions. If I walked into a job like that, he's going to be fish food for the papers, because once he starts talking, he has to bring out the figures. He has to say what he's going to do. And he hasn't done that yet. He said, I love people. I want people to warm to me. I want people. I mean, this is serious, man. And this is why I'm going to be happy in 2.5 years, 3 years, when both Labour and the Conservatives will be wiped out forever. That will be our stark choices, yeah? That's going to be the time. Yeah.
Sean, can I ask you a question, Sean? What if, and this isn't something that I've contemplated, but what if I'm completely wrong and Andy Burnham comes into power and actually things start to get better? What if he does, it doesn't stop the boats, but he slows them down? What if people start working? What if he takes people off benefits and the country starts to turn around even a little bit? Would you then consider voting for Labour again?
Look, I'm glad that Andy Burnham is actually in, because it's going to make my dream come true. But listen, we haven't got the money. We haven't got money. We are spending too much money on allowing people to come into this country to take places that people are entitled to take, that have been on the list for 10 years, that can't get a place, school places that people can't come in and get their kids who need special needs, because we're putting Somalian kids in there who can't speak English or can't do anything or can't wipe their backsides. We use those as special needs. Taking transport within London and places like Reading and everywhere on these people that don't speak the language, that speak their language because they can drive them to school, not a British... I can't even see a taxi driver nowadays. Where all these Uber drivers are coming from, these people that are delivering your food. How do we know they're not paying? They don't pay tax. They don't even know who they are. So people are coming into this country, invading this country, staying in places. This is too much.
Sean, my man. So who do you think can fix Britain?
I think what we need to do is we need to get out of the EHR, right? I think we should say to people like Pakistan, as we said, we've given them all these millions of pounds now. Look, if you don't do this, we're not giving you the money. I don't know why people have to say, oh, we're giving you this money. We're paying into these schemes. We've got this Indian scheme always coming in and saying, so it's going to be reform, because he will do it. He will do what is needed to do. And if you're British like me, I don't mind letting a few people in. But how many people every day should be coming into this country, and we should be saying to the MPs, how many people come in today? 500 people. Or how many people does it take to keep coming in to take my money?
Sean,
keep working for.
Sean, you are not wrong. I completely agree with you. And when we were growing up in the 80s, we had immigration of 30 or 40,000 people a year. It was high-quality immigration. It was people with skills who spoke the language, who decided they would come here to become British. All of that has changed. JJ, clock's against us. Final words, sir.
I think just as when Starmer got into power, I'll give Andy Burnham some time. He hasn't got a magic wand. He ain't going to change it around immediately, but I'll see what his intentions are once he's in power. And hopefully, look, he's our Prime Minister. I want him to do well. I don't think he's going to do well. I think this job is too big for him. I don't think his ideology is what is needed to fix the country right now. But I hope that he can make things better for everyone in this country. So we'll give him 4 months and see which direction we're in after that.
JJ Anasiobi is the star columnist at the Daily Express newspaper and the host of the hit YouTube show, The Daily Expresso. Check it out. The man is a legend. Lots more to come. Will Andy Burnham be good for Britain? This is Talk Breakfast, 8:36.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to Talk Breakfast, 8:38. Let's take a look at the front pages. The Times newspaper, Andy Burnham vows to revive Labour. New leader promises voters the return of the party they once knew. May God help us. Daily Express, you are right, Andy. This is Labour's last chance. Andy's new order. King of the North's mad for it. Burnham dad dances to Manchester tune as he's crowned Labour leader. Well, of course, unfortunately, we still face major problems in the country, notwithstanding the coronation of Andy Burnham. And a woman has been sexually assaulted whilst swimming off Bournemouth Beach with her family as a man of Indian extraction is arrested. Now, let's get reaction now from a former ex-top cop and a man who knows the Bournemouth area intimately well, Norman Brennan. Good morning, Norman.
Hello.
Norman, great to have you on the show. Another day, another story of crime in the once idyllic location of Bournemouth.
Yeah, it is getting very worrying, actually. I report on major crime on a daily basis, gun, homicide and knife crime. Plus, I look at crime patterns across the country, and Bournemouth seems to stick out on a regular basis as far as rapes are concerned, indecent assaults, and also knife crime. Plus, it has a number of stabbings, in so much as people are being murdered quite young. It's got a couple of universities there, and it's an area where I would actually say, similar to certain parts of London, if I was a woman, I would avoid it, because there are so many indecent assaults and rapes there that it really should be flagged up as somewhere that people should avoid. And as you rightly say, Dorset is a beautiful county. Unfortunately, the black sheep of that county is Bournemouth.
And what has happened to Bournemouth? Why are we seeing more crime?
If you want me to be blunt, it's because they have 3 hotels that are quite big hotels, very close together, and they're full of migrants, illegal migrants, or maybe others that have come here legally, that have been put up in hotels that are very close together. So they roam the streets, they're not working, they're getting paid X amount per week to go out and buy any goods and food that they need to buy. And they're intermingling with each other. And sadly, some of them haven't got the standards that we would hope that people would have in this country of respecting our women, respecting our businesses, and behaving lawfully. And sadly, too many of those are behaving unlawfully. And some of these rapes are absolutely disgusting. And many of these migrants are actually being sent to prison for very serious offences. And most of them should never be here in the first place.
Are the women of Bournemouth safe as they go about their daily lives?
In my personal and professional opinion, I would say no. I mean, of course, it's not a war zone, but it's not far off that zone of where people are walking the streets and they think nothing of touching up women, following children and raping the women. So in answer to your question, it's an area where I have posted on social media, certainly to my followers, that Bournemouth is a place where if you're a female, I would avoid going to. And if you're looking at going away with the girls for a weekend, there are many other coastal resorts that are a lot safer than Bournemouth.
And doesn't this break your heart, Norman? Because you and I are old enough to remember when Bournemouth was an incredibly high-profile, top-end holiday location for Brits.
Absolutely. I was on the Clapham train crash. I was one of 2 detectives that went down to stay in Bournemouth just before Christmas for a few weeks, and I travelled all over the place taking statements off of victims and witnesses that had seen friends that were killed, etc. And I got to know Bournemouth very well indeed, so much so that I bought a holiday home with an associate of mine in Southbourne. So you've got Bournemouth, which is a place I'd avoid now, which was so nice. And then you've got Boscombe, which is a little bit unsavoury. Then you've got Southbourne, which is okay. Then a little bit further along the coast, you've got Christchurch and Muddyford. And then you've got the New Forest. So there's beautiful areas there. And I was only there a week or so ago because I'm looking after a police officer, Lord Castle, that was unfairly sacked. So as you rightly say, it used to be really nice. It used to be lovely. And we all recall only about 2 or 3 years ago, there was a guy that went there from London and he murdered a lady that was on the beach. And that was absolutely horrific. And I'm afraid there's far too many stabbings. There's far too many murders in Bournemouth. And as worrying is how many women are being raped and indecently assaulted. And as we see, this is in the sea. And only a year or so ago, I was reporting on another woman that was also assaulted in the sea and on the beach. And people should be able to go to seaside resorts in the knowledge that they're going to be safe and looked after. And what you may not know is that the local community are so concerned about this, they've set up their own community watch where they walk the streets to protect their women and children and their town centres.
And again, a cruel irony that those migrant hotels were once very posh outlets that people used to save up their money to stay in.
You're absolutely right. I was speaking to my old detective sergeant about a year ago, and he was telling me he goes to the coast here and there, and he says we were actually looking at stopping off, going to Bournemouth and then on to Weymouth. He was having a weekend away or a few days away with his wife, and he says, I'm giving Bournemouth a swerve, Norm. And we discussed what we're discussing with you, and we're 2XL Bill. We know exactly what the scores and the doors are. We know what crime's like. We know what the fear of crime's like. And we know that victims and the public should rightly be safe. Well, the victims and the public in Dorset and certain parts of Dorset, in particular Bournemouth, do not feel safe, and they don't see the police on the streets. And when they do see them, they're normally rushing from one call to another. and they don't stop and talk to them and reassure them. And I'm afraid we've got too many illegal migrants in Britain in different parts of the country that are causing absolutely havoc. And I can't see it ever ending. All this business, stop the boats, smash the gangs. What I would say, it rhymes with Rolex.
Yeah, well, I can't disagree with you, Norman. In Bournemouth, you have really a portent for the future of this country, don't you?
Yeah, I was down there a few weeks ago, and I've been down regularly because I know it area wasn't that far from Twickenham, although I've now moved over to Swansea in Wales, although I'm back for a few days here now in London. And you're right, there's just so many lovely areas in Britain that have just been changed, transformed. And I get people contacting me all the time, and they said, Norman, I've lived in this area all my life. It was once so nice, so lovely. I don't know anyone that speaks English anymore. I'm frightened of walking the streets. I see shoplifting regularly in my area. And it was an area that I grew up and loved. And many people now are looking at leaving areas where there's high crime and persistent crime, and too frequently now, migrants that are being moved out of hotels because the government keep lauding about, well, we haven't got so many migrants in hotels anymore. Well, they're right. It's because they're being dispersed to HMOs and areas all over Britain that once felt safe, secure, and enjoyed their environment and local area, and now feel the complete opposite.
And Norman, are those people in Bournemouth and elsewhere in the country who are concerned about legal and illegal immigration, are they racist?
No, of course they're called the far right, and you're called racist. In this country, if you've got a view, an opinion, and you want to give it, if it's not what the status quo want, what the government want, then you're called far right, you're called racist, and they try to close you down. Well, the thing is, I'm not racist whatsoever. I've spent 4 decades of my life in policing, law and order, looking after victims of crime, whatever their colour, whatever their creed or sex. And I tell the truth. And people are very concerned about illegal migration. And if you've got a concern about illegal migration or those coming into this country that really we don't want here because too many of them are committing crime, that's called a personal opinion. It's only racist if you add a connotation to it of a race issue, which most people don't. But if a certain particular group of people are committing crime, sometimes very serious crime of murder, rape, robbery, shoplifting, and I think 75–80% of all thefts on our transport systems are committed by illegal migrants. And in London's West End, 75% of all shoplifting is committed by migrants. I think the public have absolutely every right to highlight such a serious concern without being called racist. And if that's what they're highlighting, it's what I'm highlighting. And I'm a leading law and order campaigner that tells the truth on crime.
You are absolutely right. And let me tell you that many ethnic Brits, all ethnic Brits, are also unhappy about illegal immigration and migrant crime. This is not about skin colour. Norman, another very important conversation. I'm so grateful for your time, your insight and your expertise. Norman Brennan, former retired top cop. Folks, lots more to come. This is Talk Breakfast.
I spoke to the Chief Constable of Devon and Cornwall Police 3 times. I spoke to the Prime Minister as well, and those calls took place over Friday and Saturday, and they both told me it's a burglary that's gone wrong. I said, no, it is not. A burglar does not park his car on your drive and walk into the house. And I went to Dartmoor on Saturday and I said, I have no doubt this is a premeditated murder. I received tons of abuse for saying it, but sadly, it's proved that I'm right.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Is Andy Burnham right to attack the legacy of Margaret Thatcher? That is the topic of today's Dolan's Dispatch in 10 minutes' time. Here's a voice note on that from Christine.
Morning, Mark. Christine from Weymouth. I'm in my 80s. So, yes, I was around for Margaret Thatcher. She was absolutely brilliant. She was the Iron Lady. She knew what she was doing, how to do it. She even had to fight her own cabinet. They didn't like a woman in charge, but she beat them all. Her problem at the end was that she just became too powerful, very much like Starmer. I'm right, you're wrong, you're not listening. And in the end, it defeated her. Such a shame. But no, she put the great back in Great Britain.
And here's a voice note from Simon on that subject.
Good morning, Mark. Simon B here from Wokingham. Thatcher did some good stuff, but she did have a lot of money coming in from council houses, oil, gas, privatisation to prop up low taxes. The thing is, you can only burn your furniture once to heat your house. And now we're left with sticks that even the bailiffs don't want.
Simon, thank you for that. Now, this evening, England face France in a race for the third position within the World Cup. And it's quite interesting. There's a lot of controversy about the England manager, Thomas Tuchel, and his decision to defend that lead against Argentina. So who could replace him if he loses his job? What about Donald Trump?
You have a great player in England who I played golf with, you know that, right? And he is Harry, who's been fantastic. I think they perhaps made a mistake when they made him a defensive player. What do I know about soccer? They took the league and they took their best player and then put him on defense. Then somehow, we got to be a little offensive, right? But no, I'm not going to call it. Look, what do I know about coaching? But that was a little unusual. But Harry is a great guy, actually.
Well, there you go. Now, Martin Blackburn is one of the top football writers at the Sun newspaper. And Martin, I haven't got you down as a great cheerleader for Donald Trump, but he's got a point about Harry Kane and that decision to park the bus 1-0 up against Argentina.
He has, Mark. Yeah, I mean, I think Donald Trump. He said there he doesn't know a lot about soccer, but I think he sort of almost captured the mood of our nation at least. Yeah. You know, I think everybody felt that way, didn't they? That after England went 1-0 up on Wednesday night, that we went too defensive, and yeah, he's right. Harry Kane was even behind the ball at one point. So yeah, Thomas Tuchel's been getting it from all angles. He probably didn't expect to be getting it from the President of the United States, but there you go. He's been speaking while we've all been asleep, Mark, about tonight's game against France, and I think it was quite a tense press conference. He's had a lot of things to say, a lot of defending himself.
Most definitely. And how important is this game this evening, England versus France, for third place?
It's funny, really, Mark, because this will be the third time England have played in this game, and it's not really a game that tends to live long in the memory. In fact, 8 years ago, when England got to the semi-finals, we played against Belgium, and I think not many English football fans will remember too much about it. But interestingly, Belgium took it quite seriously and had a big welcome home after beating us and finishing third. So yeah, I mean, I think probably most English fans and indeed the English players and Thomas Tuchel would rather they were on the bench and on the beach at the moment and the World Cup had finished for us, because it's going to take some picking up from what happened on Wednesday night.
And we're hearing, Martin, that senior players in the squad have been slamming Thomas Tuchel's tactics against Argentina. So how much disharmony do you think is there in that dressing room?
I think it's probably just disappointment, really, Mark. Having come so close, we were in 5 minutes of reaching the final. Don't forget, and I think that the disappointment of it a long time away will have hit hard. But Thomas Tuchel is going to be under a bit of pressure now. He went from all of us wondering if he was going to be the man to finally lead us to the final and to the cup, to being almost sort of public enemy number one. So when the sort of serious stuff starts again in the autumn, he is going to be under a little pressure, and the players are going to be sort of, they're going to take some convincing that he is the man to take us forward and finally end that long wait for a trophy. It's the one interesting thing, Mark, is that Pep Guardiola, who of course enjoyed living in England for a long time when he was Manchester City, is now out of a job, and the FA have approached him before. So while Guardiola's out of a job, that sort of spectre is always going to be over Thomas Tuchel's shoulder.
What do your readers at The Sun make of our exit from the competition? Do you think they can forgive Thomas Tuchel for this widely agreed to have been wrong strategy?
I think it's still a bit raw, Mark. I think the feelings are still running high after Wednesday night, and it's just sort of so disappointing the way it all ended. So I think that it looks as though he is going to get another chance. That he's got a 2-year contract, which takes us up to the Euros, which of course are on home soil in 2 years' time. As I said, the pressure is going to be on him to do better than a semi-final place.
Martin, he would be under less pressure, don't you think, if he'd handled our exit from the competition differently? So, for example, if he'd done a press conference and held his hands up and said, "Do you know something? I was protecting a lead, that was a mistake, and I've got the best players in this tournament and we'll be back." I think that how this would have been responded to would be very different if he'd said those things.
Yeah, well, I mean, as I say, he has been speaking a little bit overnight, Mark, and he has sort of, said if anything, if anybody needs the blame to be blamed, then it should be him.
2 days too late, Martin. 2 days too late.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. I mean, and he did an interview on Sky the day after the game where he was sort of talking about the DNA of English players and how we don't want to give them all. That looked like he was sort of passing responsibility. So maybe somebody's been in his ear and said, like, you need to take a bit of the blame here, Thomas, because the way that England be treated behind the ball was really disappointing, and I think that's going to be the big takeaway from this tournament, unfortunately.
Definitely. Martin, really enjoyed your coverage in the Sun newspaper. Enjoy the game tonight. Martin Blackburn, top football writer at the Sun newspaper. It's not coming home. Are we going to get third place? Who cares? Folks, lots more to come. Dolan's Dispatch is next.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Three minutes past 9, top of the morning. Happy Saturday, one and all. Your weekend starts here. This is Talk Breakfast. Mark Dolan with you for a very big hour. And breaking this morning, Big Ange is back. The mojito-swilling vape lover, Angela Rayner, is reportedly going to be Britain's next health secretary. You couldn't make it up. Well, it will boost her income. Maybe she can get on the housing ladder. Buy another flat in Hove. Don't forget the stamp duty, Ange. Meanwhile, the tough on immigration minister, the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, is to leave the Home Office. Does this prove that Andy Burnham has no intention of stopping the boats? Meanwhile, the former Manchester mayor who enters Downing Street on Monday has said, when in doubt, blame Thatcher. But is he right to attack the Iron Lady? That is the topic of today's Dolan's Dispatch in just a moment. And my question this morning is a simple one. Will Andy Burnham be good for Britain? My phone number is 0344 499 1000. Text the word talk in your message to 87222. Leave us a voice note. And as the saying goes, let's talk. Now, you can hear us on DAB+, in-app and online. You can also watch the show. Head to YouTube, search Talk, hit the live button and up we pop. A big hour to come. Let's talk. And as always, every Friday, Saturday and Sunday, it's time for Dolan's Dispatch. Is he having a laugh? Andy Burnham, man at NHS himself, the guy that hasn't got a mandate to lead this country, attacks Margaret Thatcher. Arguably the best example of political leadership since Winston Churchill. Margaret Thatcher inherited a truly broken country in 1979. We had inflation of over 20%. We had the 3-day working week. We had bodies unburied because of industrial action. We had power cuts. We went to the IMF with our begging bowl just to keep the lights on. By 1987, off the back of her third landslide victory, Margaret Thatcher presided over 5% economic growth. You heard me right. Economic growth was at 5% in 1987. Now, that is not even an American level of economic growth. That is Chinese levels of economic growth. She tackled inflation and unemployment. She presided over a proliferation, an explosion of small and medium-sized enterprises. People became self-employed. They made something of their lives. She ended the class system of this country, particularly through policies like Right to Buy, which enabled 1.7 million families to purchase the home in which they lived. And with that investment, they were able to share their property, hand it over to the next generation, take a mortgage on that property, start a business. They could do a conservatory. They could give the place a lick of paint. It was truly transformative. She gave people power again. For example, with league tables and detailed information about the performance of local schools. She did the same thing with the NHS. She presided over a rich country that lived within its means, which means that by the end of the 1980s, Mrs. Thatcher was using national income to pay down our national debt. When she became Prime Minister in 1979, she said that running the government is very similar to a household, and you have to look at what's coming in and what goes out. And she said that a household must not live within beyond its means, and a country must not live beyond its means. She was right then, and she's right now. And Andy Burnham, who in my view is going to be horribly found out in number 10, hopelessly out of his depth, a prime minister that's only there on vibes and on gimmicks, is going to discover that running a country is very difficult. And in the case of the United Kingdom, this country has not properly been run since the Margaret Thatcher era. She privatised failed state-owned enterprises, and if that's not enough, she won a war, a very difficult war, and she maintained the sovereignty of the Falkland Islands. It was an economic, societal and political revolution, and we would all bite your hand off to have Britain from the 1980s in 2026. So how dare Andy Burnham attack Margaret Thatcher? He's not the Iron Lady. He's not even the Tin Man. 0344 499 1000, your reaction to Dolan's dispatch. Lenny is in Ashford. Good morning, Lenny.
Sorry, Mark. Sorry, I'm having a senior moment.
Oh, aren't we all?
Yeah, well, I will tell you, I mean, Margaret Thatcher's record stands for itself. Now, if you compare that with the record of Andy Burnham, if you just look at just one thing, what he has left Manchester, £1.5 billion in debt. He increased that debt by £1 billion while he was the mayor of Manchester. And now they will be in that debt for a very long time, trying to pay the interest off.
Oh, it's a huge legacy of debt in Greater Manchester.
That is correct, and that is what he created when he went to Manchester. Manchester was only 500 million in debt. He increased their debt by £1 billion.
And what do you think of him attacking Margaret Thatcher? Because the 1980s were a decade of growth and optimism within this country.
Well, you've got to bear in mind what she inherited. Now, at the time she took power, the unions devastated British industry, and we were going nowhere. And she fought hard, and what she achieved when she left, like 5% GDP, was only a figure you could dream about.
Well, we've got 0.1, so I would take 5% over 0.1.
Yeah, wouldn't we all? Wouldn't we all? And the thing is that, you know, I mean, she wasn't perfect.
Of course.
She was a double sword, a double-edged sword Prime Minister, but I would rather have her right back now than any Labour Prime Minister, because in my long life, now I'm in my twilight years, and I cannot remember a Labour, after Labour have left office, that our country was in a better condition than when they started.
Correct.
Now, if you take the words of Starmer, what he said, at the dispatch box, a load of tosh. The figures don't stand up. Nothing stands up. In my lifetime, I cannot remember a Labour Prime Minister leaving this country in better condition than they started.
Well, just briefly, Lenny, I think that Britain's national decline began in 1990 when Thatcher left office.
Yes, yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not sure. I think when she left office, that was when Blair came in, I do believe.
Correct. We had John Major, then Blair.
Yes. Now, John Major, he was the most boring Prime Minister we ever had. He was boring, right? But and he should have gone a lot further than what he did. But he actually, his big mistake was he demanded we had freedom of movement, which was a very big mistake. Now that was his, that's what he left. That was his forte when he left power. And then when Blair come in, we had open door immigration.
Correct.
And the mistakes, the problems that Blair cost us with all these human rights laws that he brought in, we are still suffering from today.
Lenny, you're so right. He changed the legal and constitutional framework of the country to the extent that we now cannot deport illegal immigrants. We cannot deport rapists and murderers and such like. Lenny, great call. Wish we had longer, but Ray's in Colchester. Good morning, Ray.
Yes, good morning. Our new glorious leaders mention of Thatcher worked brilliantly, didn't it? Because instead of talking about what his plans are for our future, we're now spending hour upon hour talking about things that happened 40, 50 years ago.
Well, Ray, just to interrupt you, why is he attacking a very successful former Prime Minister? To me, that would be like the new manager of Manchester United attacking Sir Alex Ferguson.
Yeah, but that's, you've just said the very reason. The whole point is, look at the record of the current government. Well, they're absolutely atrocious. And so what you do is you bring up the great bougie woman for the left, which is Thatcher, and you put it out there. And look at our show. The show is all about talking about something that happened 40 years ago and the poor woman's dead. Instead of talking about what we should be talking about is what Andy Burnham has actually done to Manchester, how much debt he's actually left it into, and what little things he's actually been telling us our future is going to have under this new regime. That's what we should be talking about. Talking about Thatcher, it might be great for reminiscing. I'm a great fan of hers. But the reality is, he's put that out there for you to do exactly what you're doing, talking about the past, when you should be holding him to account, holding him to under the microscope, and holding this awful government and this new awful government, which is basically just rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic, as far as I can see. You should be holding them to account and talking about what our future is, rather than talking about the past of a great Prime Minister who is no longer here.
I think you're right, Ray. I think you're right. I think I've stepped into a bear trap of Andy Burnham's student politics.
Yeah, you have, and it's easy. It's great to bring up Thatcher. Did she do this? Of course, some things were great, some things were.
Of course.
However, we've had numerous governments after that, the worst one being the Blair government, which, as you said, completely changed the constitution of this country. He was a revolutionary, just not one that's manning the barricades, and we're paying the price for it now. But the question isn't about Thatcher or Blair. The question is about what he's going to be doing. And at the moment, he's had no scrutiny at all. He's come in, he's been anointed. Starmer, the worst Prime Minister I've ever had in my lifetime, stage left as quickly as he could when he realised nobody liked him, even his own so-called MPs.
Yeah.
And the irony is watching them all cheering him, a tear in their eye as he went, meanwhile pulling a knife out of his back as he went past. I don't think he's lost on most people. But we should be focusing on where we are heading. And I'm afraid if you thought Starmer was bad, I think you're going to be even more shocked what's coming.
Well, Ray, you're right. I think I've fallen for Andy Burnham's distraction tactics. He wants us fighting like rats in a sack over Margaret Thatcher's legacy. That's absurd. It was 40 years ago, and we've had a decade of Labour in power since then. What do you think is going to happen with Burnham in number 10? Because I'm not sure Andy Burnham knows, but what's your best guess?
Well, the reality is there are economic constraints. Our borrowing figures on the open market are now higher than the likes of Greece. which shows how little confidence the markets have in our ability to constrain what has been a vast spending spree. We are killing the economy. We are killing the businesses with ever higher taxes, ever higher regulation, and basically ever higher interference at every level. And that's the bit that generates the money. So we are basically borrowing ever greater amounts. We are spending ever greater amounts on the unproductive side while killing the part that actually produces things. And the fact is that we've now had more prime ministers in the last 10 years than we had in the previous 50 years, I think it was. Shows how unstable we've become as a country and how ungovernable we've become. Change the person at the top all you want. The reality is we have fundamental structural things that need to be done, radical things, and people are not going to like them. But believe me, if we don't change very quickly, they are not going to like what's coming. Because once the markets decide, you know what, we don't think you can pay this, you see what happens when the IMF, which we are heading towards rapidly, say we are going to impose these things. So all of those people who are bleating about, well, we can't cut this, we can't go there, let's be nice and all the rest of it, well, believe me, he who pays the piper chooses a tune, as they say, yeah?
Ray, a first-class call, and you're absolutely right about that. If our politicians don't make the tough decisions on behalf of this country, then technocrats will, and we will have a Greece moment. Ray, please call me again soon. Enjoyed your company. Have a good Saturday. Lots more to come. In fact, shall we just indulge in a cheeky voice note from Sarah?
Morning, Mark. Great show. Andy Burnham, well, he shouldn't even be there, should he? Let's face it, he's been parachuted in, even though he failed 2 leadership contests whilst he was an MP. Now everybody thinks he's bloody God's gift. And I'm sorry, but it's just an ego with eyebrows, isn't it? I mean, I'm not being funny. What is the man saying? What seems to be happening, and it's been bad enough the last 2 years, but it's going to get worse, is that we're living in this lefty echo chamber, and the lefties all, get together and talk more leftiness, and the hashtag Be Kind anti-Israel lobby, and the pro-trans, and this, that, and the other, and then the net zero thing. I mean, I would imagine the majority of us just want to try and get the country back up and running, but they're ticking too many bloody diversity boxes. And this man, I think, is going to be worse. And on top of that, he's going to raise taxes and push more and more people out of the country and push the benefit system up. So I don't know what the hell is going to happen, but something needs to happen.
Sarah, I think it's a downward spiral. I think things will get worse before they get better. Who is going to be in Andy Burnham's cabinet? Who's going to be Home Secretary, Chancellor, Foreign Secretary, Health Secretary? I'll be speaking to one of the country's best connected political journalists next.
I believe in all of you, and I am confident we can do it. Thank you very much.
Pass me the sick bag. Nauseating, indulgent, rambling nonsense. Bring back Starmer. As far as I'm concerned, 3 times he said, I'm ready. Therefore, protesting too much. I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready. I have a plan. I suspect that in the next couple of months, we're going to discover the opposite is the case.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
9:24, you're listening to Talk Breakfast. Who is going to be in Andy Burnham's cabinet? Who better to ask than one of the best connected political journalists in the country, the Whitehall correspondent at the Sun newspaper, Sophia Slade. Good morning, Sophia.
Good morning.
I've cancelled your leave this summer because you're supposed to have the silly season. Nothing happens in July, August. Well, we have the small matter of a brand new Prime Minister on Monday.
I know. A long time ago, when I first started being a journalist, what you'd do before the summer is you'd have a basket of summer stories, of silly season stories. We don't even have time to write, you know, silly season stories that are going to hold to the summer. I think Andy Burnham and his new cabinet and what he gets up to over the summer will keep us very busy indeed. I mean, we're expecting him to go on a bit of a grand tour over the summer around the UK. So hopefully we'll get to see a bit more of him, because I think we need to see some flesh on the bones of what policy he's going to bring.
Most definitely. Before we get to the potential composition of his cabinet, how did his speech go down yesterday with Sun readers? How do you think it landed?
I think it remains to be seen. I mean, who was tuning into that? You know, in the middle of the day at lunchtime, probably you, I, and a few others.
Yeah.
I think people would have caught up with it on the 6 o'clock news and the 10 o'clock news. They'll be reading our papers and sort of getting the finer points. They'll be watching clips on TikTok and Instagram of Andy Burnham just before he went on stage dancing in the corner. I think, was it New Order that he was dancing to? And I think that's what's going to form their opinions and whether or not they're persuaded. It's funny, I have had a lot of unsolicited text messages from friends sort of saying, you know, what's this all about? What's he going to do that's differently? And it has sort of, people have reacted to it. They are just asking me, well, what is he going to do? What is he going to do that's different? It's kind of, that's the mood music I'm getting from people that are not in my SW1 sort of Westminster bubble.
Well, yes, I mean, for me, I was on air for that speech yesterday on Talk, and it was a nothing burger. It was all poetry and no policy, and he's going to have to put some meat on the bones. The other thing that bothered me is that the speech yesterday, his first speech as party leader, felt very much for the audience of the Labour Party, not the British people.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I can't remember the exact quote, but he sort of said, you know, he emphasised this is, you know, we're going to be more Labour, essentially. I mean, what does that mean? What does that mean for the general public? I think Labour MPs liked it. I mean, obviously, they overwhelmingly nominated him. They wanted him to be leader. They've just toppled their last Prime Minister, their last leader. So I think it has gone down well with Labour MPs, for sure. But I think the general public, I'm not sure... I'm not sure how they're going to take the kind of the funny shtick, the sort of the everyman kind of performance that he puts on. I think the country will like a bit more positivity. I think that's a fair thing to say, but I think they'll want to know, well, what are you going to do for us? What are you going to do that's different from the last guy? And I think one of the things that stood out to me, I think, in the speech yesterday, he said something along the lines of, I have a plan. OK, great, you have a plan, but just because you tell us you have a plan doesn't mean that you do have one. You know, show us it, tell us what it is, you know. And I think I've said to you before, he's brilliant at pointing out the problems, but you and I are very good at pointing out the problems in this country. But you and I are not paid by the taxpayer to fix the problems of this country. He is, and he is going to be the man in charge of fixing the problems of this country. So he better find a solution pretty fast.
Most definitely, and he's going to need some good people around him to deliver that. And we're hearing a lot of noise around Shabana Mahmood and a possible departure from the Home Office. Now, it's my understanding that she was quite happy in that job, and it's my view that she's one of the stronger ministers in this government.
I would agree with that. I think she's actually been a pretty successful Home Secretary, which is a tough gig. I'd say it's probably the hardest job in government, and a lot of the time, you know, former Home Secretaries told me they really didn't want that job, and they didn't really enjoy it very much. They tend to last a year or two, don't they? Yeah, it's a really, really rough job, and she has made a success of it in a very, very difficult role. I think it'll be interesting. It's annoyed the left of Labour that she's being tipped for this role, because they see her as being very much on the party's right. I'm not sure yet what kind of Chancellor she would be, because obviously she's kind of on the right of Labour when it comes to things like immigration. She's been pretty hardline. She's quite socially conservative in a lot of ways, but that doesn't mean she's economically conservative. That might, you know, she could have a totally different economic outlook of the world, and I think there's been a lot of commentary about sort of, oh, well, you know, what does Shabana know about economics? What does Shabana know about the economy? I'm sure she does have an economic vision and does have opinions. I mean, for one thing, you know, someone that is willing to crack down on immigration, that directly impacts the economy.
It does.
You know, we've had politician after politician after politician just fall back on cheap, low-skilled labour from abroad. And she said, no, I'm not happy about that anymore. We need to go for a different path. They've been pushing getting young people into apprenticeships and things like that, and getting young people into jobs. So she might have quite a nuanced position on the economy that we just don't know yet. So I think I'm kind of holding back in terms of just sort of saying, well, you know, she'll be this, she'll be that.
He's missing a trick, though, if she leaves the Home Office, because her efforts to toughen up on immigration, particularly the so-called Boris wave, whereby now people that came to this country over that 5-year period will have to wait a decade for settled status, not 5 years. And it will be based on several criteria, including a command of the English language, the absence of a criminal record, and you must be economically productive. If she leaves the Home Office, it's possible that those quite sensible plans, in my view, will be watered down, and God knows what's going to happen with the boats.
Cynically, I've always had a bit of a suspicion that a lot of those hardline policies were designed to be watered down anyway. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if a new Home Secretary did come in and water down some of their plans.
So it's like good cop, bad cop?
Yes, I could imagine a scenario like that, and I could imagine Shabana being forced. If she stayed as Home Secretary, I could imagine her being forced to water down some of these proposals, because they are so controversial with Labour backbenchers.
And yet so popular with the public, including among Labour voters.
But Labour MPs are such a different beast to the general public. They are so different. And it's just like Tory MPs are quite different to the general public as well. And I think it's just going to take time, really, isn't it?
Was it significant that Andy Burnham's first speech as Labour leader was at the headquarters of the Trade Union Congress?
I mean, it's quite on brand. Certainly for Andy Burnham, I think he was endorsed by most of the main Labour backing unions, if not all of them. I think we'll probably see a bit of a closer relationship with the unions. I mean, he's talking up this sort of anti-Thatcher, you know, this sort of let's turn the clock back, and the end of, I hate this phrase, neoliberalism, of the kind of 80s of Thatcher.
What does it mean?
Well, I mean, if I never hear the word neoliberalism again, I won't be sad
Isn't
about
it lazy
political,
political shorthand?
Yeah, exactly. But I think, you know, my sort of gut is that we'll see a sort of slightly more traditional, like what I would call sort of Labour, and, you know, with kind of like the net zero stuff and drilling, the unions don't like Ed Miliband's plans because it hurts jobs, it hurts their workers, their paid-up union members. And it sounds like Andy's, you know, more pro-drilling, and we might see a bit of a backpedal on some sort of Ed Miliband's stances and things like that. So I think you might see a bit of a more sort of what I call like an old Labour, sort of a traditional old Labour stance from him on issues like that, where the unions will voice their concerns.
So what do you think about rumours of Ed Miliband becoming Foreign Secretary, Shabana Mahmood becoming the Chancellor, and Angela Rayner potentially being Health Secretary?
I could certainly see Ed Miliband being Foreign Secretary. I could see that. I mean, that's been talked about quite a lot, and quite a few people in Labour circles were talking to me about yesterday. Someone said to me, you know, he looks set to go to Foreign and Shabana looks nailed on for Chancellor. I think it would be a good sort of consolation prize, shall I say, for Ed Miliband, because I think he'd definitely want to be Chancellor of the Exchequer, sort of number 2 in a Burnham government. I think he'd love to get his hands on the country's coffers and sort of, you know, shape his vision. You know, he's an ambitious man, right? He would like to shape the vision of the country, but I think it would make sense. Foreign is a very glamorous role. I mean, politics is not very glamorous, but when it comes to the cabinet, you know, Foreign Secretary, flying him around the world, it'd also keep him out of the way a little bit as well.
Well, that's right. That's what Theresa May did with Boris Johnson back in the day. Give him the job and basically put him on a plane and send him somewhere else. And then Angela Rayner, what we are expecting, whether it's the health department or another big department, but she's going to be back.
Yeah, I could see her coming back. Although I didn't see her at the press conference yesterday. I may have missed it because I wasn't in person there. Yeah.
I'm sure she would have been photographed.
Yeah. So, I mean, I imagine, from what I hear, she desperately wants a job in cabinet, and her allies definitely want her to go back into cabinet. But I mean, it will be controversial returning her to cabinet, but she's so popular with their base, even after all the sort of controversy over her taxes, her house taxes and things like that. She's really popular among MPs, and she's really well liked, and she was very powerful for a time as well within the party. She was a very powerful base. She'll never be leader. She did want to be leader. Obviously, she was Deputy Prime Minister and Deputy Leader. And I think because of all her tax issues, she can never, ever be leader of the Labour Party, to be honest. I mean, come back to me in 10 years, I might be saying something completely different. But, you know, her ambition has not gone anywhere.
She could play the John Prescott role to Burnham's Tony Blair and keep the base happy, perhaps.
Yeah, and she was always likened to that sort of under Keir as well when she was his Deputy Prime Minister. She was sort of likened as that kind of the street fighter, because Keir was kind of sort of quite straight-laced and a little bit awkward in front of the camera, but she's very natural and she sort of comes out swinging and fighting, so you can see her fitting into that role very naturally.
So that's quite interesting. And then, just briefly, Wes Streeting. I mean, the obvious thing to do would be to keep him in the health department, because he's been the other rather more effective cabinet minister.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he quit that job, but...
oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it's all right.
You forget, don't you? But I somehow associate him with that role, and he did a bit of work on the waiting lists, and he's been talking tough with the BMA and also just with the NHS overall.
Yeah, I mean... There's a world in which, I mean, could you sort of say, OK, I'm going to give you the toughest job and give you Home Secretary? You know, he is on the sort of party's sort of right, I guess. He's seen in that sort of camp. Perhaps he could be the successor to Mahmood in that area.
How interesting. Well, I look forward to your coverage in the Sun newspaper, because it's an ongoing story and we don't know what Andy Burnham's plans are. I'm not sure he does either. He's got until Monday, so he won't be getting too much sleep. Sophia Slay is the Whitehall correspondent at the Sun newspaper. Sophia, great to see you again. We'll catch up soon. A busy week beckons for my colleague Sophia. Lots more to come. Can we take a quick voice note? And this is from Angie.
Morning, Mark. Great show. Angie from Portsmouth. So I was listening to that other caller and he was saying about Andy Burnham. I don't know anyone that voted for him. He didn't vote for him. Well, a few constituents voted for a guy who promised them that he was going to look after their constituency, and already is changing his mind about a lot of what he said. He also changed his mind before. So, you know, he's trying to do the right thing by them. And also, who has voted for him to be Prime Minister? Not even his own party has voted for him, because they didn't have an election process, because they all chickened out. And this is the problem with leftists. They don't want to do the right thing for the right reasons, because, people might not like me, but I'm a nice person. What a load of rubbish. It's typical communism. No, it's not happening. Look away, look away.
Yeah.
There's nothing to see here. You just need to get back in your box and do as you're told. Well, if that was what people want, good luck, because that's what you're going to get from him. He needs to grow a pair, do the right thing for his country, not for himself, not for all these hand-wringers that back him in the party. Just do the right thing. We'll see. Great show.
Angie, you took the words right out of my mouth. Will Andy Burnham be good for Britain? Your calls next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Will Andy Burnham be good for Britain? Here's a voice note from Mike.
Morning, Mark. Mike in Cheshire here. Just got one thing to say about this Andy Burnham. He's a fake Mancunian and he's a plastic scouser. That's all I want to say. Have a good morning.
Short and sweet. Thank you for that, Michael. Phil has comments on Andy Burnham.
Hi, Mark. Phil in Nottingham here. The Labour Party, mate, they're so out of touch with the electorate, it's unreal. So they've just got rid of Starmer and brought in Burnham because he's a better communicator. That says to me that they don't see anything wrong with their message. They see the problem as the way that message is being delivered. So they're not planning on changing anything they're doing. They're just planning on changing the messenger. And that just shows that the lot of them haven't got a clue.
Phil, you're so right about that. In my view, this is lipstick on a pig. There was no mention of our broken economy. There was no mention of illegal immigration. There was no mention of the cost of net zero, which is the effective deindustrialisation of the country and something that even the left-wing unions hate. Here's Kelvin.
Good morning, Mark. On Andy Burnham, his speech about Maggie Thatcher. Laugh out loud. I think he needs to get himself educated, mate. And have a good look at what Maggie Thatcher actually did for this country, because we were in a far better place then than we are now. Burnham, if you look at everything that Maggie Thatcher did back then, Burnham wants the opposite of all that, and the times were good. So he wants to put us back into the dark ages. You know, I don't know, they can say he's being brilliant, and he's brought Rayner back, for God's sake, man. You know, she's just wrecked all the businesses in this country, and now she's going to have a go at welfare. Oh, God help us. Bye.
Kelvin, thank you for that. And I actually think that Andy Burnham's attack on Margaret Thatcher is not just absurd, given the fact that she transformed the fortunes of this country, our society, our economy, our global standing, and by the way, she invested in the military too and won a war. It's an insult to Labour voters that supported Margaret Thatcher in 3 elections, 79, 83 and 87. Disgruntled left-wing voters gave Margaret Thatcher their support. And the reason why is because she said, look, you may be at the lower end of the economic ladder, but you can do something with your life. You can start a business. And do you know something else? You can own the house or the apartment that you live in. And on that property, you can borrow money and start a company, or you can give it to your kids, or you can do a conservatory. So she transformed people's lives with social aspiration. She ended the class system. She liberated the working class, which is why they voted for her 3 times over. But apparently Andy Burnham thinks that they're bad people. Jay's in Stockport. Good morning, Jay.
Good morning, Mark. Pleasure to speak to you.
You too, Jay.
Hi.
So lovely to have you on. Now, what inspired you to call? Because I don't understand why Andy Burnham is attacking a Prime Minister that hasn't been around for 40 years.
Well, you've just actually stole my thunder, because you've just given the speech of what I was about to say. Yeah, I'm a success story for Maggie Thatcher, from working class and being able to get up, get out. I was on maternity leave at the time, and I thought, I can't see how it's going to work out practically, be working 60 hours a week with a new baby.
Yeah.
And then I had the opportunity to start a small business with a small idea. And then they said, oh, no, we'll support you. And they did, because, you know, the big sacrifice, if you like, to be able to start up a business means you've got no holiday pay, no sickness benefit. You really are on your own tails, trying to make a success of yourself. And they supported you. They gave you tax breaks. They did everything to make sure. And you're right in what you said. And one thing, I was only young at the time, and I thought I was one of those people, you know, and say, I don't do politics. And then you realise when you get a little bit older that you do need to do politics, because it really does impact on your mortgage and everything else that you do.
Yeah.
And one thing she said when I was only young, and I thought, that's a cracking idea. She said, I'm going to give you your money back so you can spend it how you like, on education for your children, which was obviously paramount in my planning, because I'd just had a new baby and I wanted to do the best for my baby. And I thought, gosh, that'd be a good idea. And it wasn't because you lived in the world of, how can I put it now? It was like, you wasn't going to be posh. You was just going to be practical and in charge of your own funds. And this is the problem. And Phil, again, stole my thunder earlier before I came on, when he said in the WhatsApp message to you that with Andy Burnham and Labour, it's like they've dusted down an old logbook from 20 years ago and said, oh, right, just say this, just do this. And everybody will believe you. And with social media, they've got to come up to date with what they're going to do with their approach of speaking to people. And as for keep saying, oh, no, we brought 500,000 kids out of poverty, I'd love you to name them. I'd love you to.
There is no evidence that giving families money.
Where are all these poor people?
Correct. Lifting the 2-child benefit cap, there's no evidence that that will end child poverty, Jay.
No. And these poor people, where are they all? Because they're all on massive welfare benefits that outstrip the workers. So we're not stupid. And I think Labour, when I was watching all the little together and all the click yesterday with, pumping one another and fist, sort of like high-fiving one another.
Backslapping, yeah.
Backslapping, all the rest of it, I'm thinking, oh my days, aren't we great, aren't we great, aren't we great? No, you're rubbish. And like Phil said, you've just got somebody else to come and deliver the message, and you think, and I think it's just it's like a cover for, we know we've done 16 U-turns, we're going to have to get somebody else in because we're going to have to U-turn here and here and here. We'll just bring somebody else in and make it out that it's a brand new show.
Well, exactly. And I do think, Jay, that it's just a different face, but the same failed policies. Couple of seconds to go. Is there a figure in the mould of Mrs. Thatcher that can save the country?
A figure?
Yeah. Is there anyone out there like her that could turn things around?
Well, the obvious person, and everybody's going, oh, not him, is the usual. Yeah, Nigel Farage. If you, like I was saying when I saw everything yesterday, if you watch Andy Burnham, he can't look you in the eye, not even when he's doing piece to camera.
Yes,
when he has
you're
to
right
read
about
everything.
that. He kept looking
And
down
when
at his
it's
notes,
Nigel
didn't
Farage, he speaks to you. And he does his Maggie Thatcher because he talks to you. He looks down the camera. He's passionate about what he does. He knows what he's doing because he has a plan, because he knows what he's talking about, because he's seen a spreadsheet with gazillions on. Half the Labour front benches don't even know what a spreadsheet looks like, let alone read one.
Jay, an elite level call, and nobody stole your thunder. You said it far better than I could have. Please call me again soon, and congratulations on the success you've had in your life because of hard work, because of ambition, because of a vision, and facilitated by Mrs. Thatcher. This is Talk Breakfast.
We've had a uniparty in government for many, many years. They've cut our defences, they've opened our borders, they've emptied our prisons, they've seen law and order decline on the streets, they've gone for crazy net zero agendas. Whether we've had Conservative or Labour government, the results have been the same. We're arguing Britain is broken and needs fundamental and radical change. And we should be allowed to make that argument and let your viewers and listeners make their minds up whether they want it or not. And we should be able to do that without fearing for our lives.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
It's all happening over at Virgin Radio, where for the next 3 weeks, Steve Denyer is in for Chris Evans. And Steve joins me in the studio. Good morning.
Hello, good morning. How are you?
Really well. Looking forward to 3 weeks of top tunes and some early morning banter on Virgin.
Yeah, it's going to be great fun. You know, summer holiday vibes, you know, just having fun and get in touch and great music. We've got some good guests as well, different guests that are just to be confirmed. But What a great thing to be waking everybody up. And I get a lay-in, because usually I'm up in the middle of the night, and now I can wake up at 5. So this is good.
Oh, well, that's it. You won't know yourself.
Nice.
You'll get your beauty sleep. What do you think are the perfect tunes for the morning?
I would say we love, you know, those kind of high-octane tracks that wake you up, that you want to sing along to. Loads of great kind of indie. Basically, we do 90s, noughties and bangers. So there's everything covered.
Well, you're a naughty and a banger. So I've heard.
Thank you. Look at you with your stubble,
The case
by the way.
continues.
Love the stubble.
Yes, if you're listening on the radio, you won't know that I'm attempting to grow a beard. I'm not really. I just haven't shaved for a couple of days.
I love it.
Let's see how that plays out. I had my son's graduation this week. A lot of travelling, a lot of stuff going on.
Great.
Forgot my razor. The rest is history.
I love it. It's edgy.
Well, listen, you're edgy too. And we're very excited because, of course, every Saturday it's Retro Rewind. We choose a secret year and you give us a few clues and reveal all at the end.
Yes, OK, it's a massive year. This is a huge, huge year. I'm determined not to give it away, by the way. It's not going to happen. Not on my shift. But we had huge royal news, and I want to take you back to the 30th of March when this was announced. Look at this.
Good evening. Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, has died in her 102nd year. She died at Windsor at 3:15 this afternoon. Buckingham Palace said the end was peaceful and the Queen was at her side.
A true legend, the Queen Mother, very much the backbone of the monarchy.
Yes, and one of the very, very first royal family passings that we had. I always remember being, you won't be surprised about this, but I was in a pub in Covent Garden and everybody started to get alerts on their phones. And it was the first time I'd ever experienced this, with everybody just stopping and going, oh, goodness, look at this. The thing is about this, this royal family story is this was just 7 weeks after this event. Take a look at this.
Draped in her own blue and crimson standard, Princess Margaret's coffin leaves the King Edward VII Hospital late this afternoon. The Princess died here at 6:30 this morning after suffering a stroke. She was 71.
What a contrast. Queen Mother passes at 102.
Yes.
And poor Margaret, 71. She had health issues and maybe a slightly different lifestyle to her mother.
Yes, yeah. I was recently watching, there's a great episode of The Crown all about Princess Margaret and her life. And there's an episode devoted to the strokes that she had and her final days and the sadness, really, that she never really got to be herself or live the life that she really wanted or have the partner that she wanted to marry and stuff. So she ended up quite a tragic figure, I think.
Yeah, and she was somehow one of the first showbiz royals, and she befriended actors and musicians, famous for that cigarette on the fancy little tip thing that you know, and of course the gin and tonics and all the rest of it.
Exactly.
So she tried to have a normal life, and I think she had a good relationship with the Queen, but they were very different people.
Very different people, but you got the impression that by the time that she really fell ill, they'd kind of patched things up. But it must have been very difficult for the Queen. Two massive, you know, her mother and her sister dying within 7 weeks. So all happened in this year. One of the biggest news stories, you'll remember the awful Soham killings.
Awful.
And
Ian Huntley.
Sky News, you know, back in this year, was one of the first kind of news stories where they kind of decamped around Soham. And this happened live. This was Jeremy Thompson, who was one of the presenters on Sky, basically doorstepping Ian Huntley, and this was used in the court case. Take a look at this.
How do we know they were here at 6:15? Well, we have an eyewitness. Ian Huntley here is a familiar figure. Evening, Ian. You're the school caretaker. The girls, Jessica and Holly, would know you, and they saw you on the front doorstep. What went on?
Well, I don't know the girls. I stood on the front doorstep grooming my dog down. She'd run away and come back a bit of a mess. They just came across and asked how Miss Carr was, as she used to teach them at St Andrews. I just said she weren't very good, as she hadn't got the job. And they just said, please tell her that we're very sorry. And off they walked in the direction of the library over there.
Little did that reporter know that he was speaking to the killer of those little girls.
In exactly 24 hours after that was broadcast live, Huntley and Carr were being questioned. And Jeremy Thompson said he thought he was a dark character, but never thought that precise moment. He was just, you know, inquisitive and thought, I'm going to ask him, because we heard that the caretaker was the final person to see the girls, but knowing what we know now. And that was actually played in the Old Bailey. Jeremy Thompson was called in front of the judge. They played that, and quite an astonishing, that was a live television moment.
One of the worst crimes in the history of this country.
Just
and, of
dreadful.
course, Ian Huntley murdered in jail by a fellow inmate. Wow, what else have we got?
I wanted to pay tribute to Anne Widdecombe because, obviously, I mean, you know, she appeared on your show a week and a half ago, didn't
Correct.
she? Back in this year, one of the greatest television moments, and this is the reason why I thought Anne was just a terrific character, because she agreed to be on a Louis Theroux show. Back in this year, it was when Louis met different celebrities. And can I just play you a little clip? It's a great episode. Take a look at this.
An internet site where you've written a poem about your cat.
I have indeed. Goodness gracious, what is that? It's Mr. Pugwash, my black cat. Goodness gracious, are there others? Yes, indeed, my cat Carruthers. It's about my level.
just vintage Widdecombe.
There was lots of toing and froing. It's a really great episode because she doesn't let him take the mick out of her at all. And there's a great scene where she says to him, "You're not to speak to my mother without me being present." And they're on a cruise ship, and he starts interviewing her mother. She races back, and she gives him hell. It's a really great episode, and I think when I saw that, I wasn't surprised that she became such a massive public figure, showbiz figure, as well as a really important politician, because she was great fodder. And it's a really great programme. And, you know, all these years later, I thought it would be important to have a look at that.
Well, it's so nice that we've got that tribute to Anne. And it was a brave thing to agree to do that show, because Louis Theroux is a very clever and conniving man who will allow you to make a fool of yourself. Yeah. And he's stitched up lots of celebrities.
And they don't know it's happening, where
Correct.
she knew with every single question what he was trying to do. Of course, he brought up her relationships and all of that kind of stuff.
Or he was asking about her private life, which was none of his business, and she gave him short shrift.
Exactly that. It's really, really... I think it's up on the iPlayer. If you've got an hour free, you'll watch it. And I think it's a really great way to remember the person that she was, because she was feisty and she was nobody's fool.
Well, I cannot wait to hear what the year was. I'm on the edge of my seat.
I haven't given it away, have I?
No.
2002. 2002. It was also the year. I didn't want to give... I thought this would give it away immediately, but we lost to the World Cup again. However, we beat Argentina, but we lost to Brazil. And we had a great... I mean, you know, with the World Cup, we had Michael Owen, we had Paul Scholes,